boys are going to bring the heat today.
As the leader of the Booner pack, I lead from the front.
All right, boys. Lock in.
It's our core foundation, man. Grit.
I'm fired up. I'm fired the fuck up, boys.
It's pumping right now. It's got my juices pumping, boys.
Welcome to Crunch Time Sports with Jeff, Booner, Lukas. It is Wednesday, January 29th, and it's the Doc. Docs today. Cannot wait for lots to catch up with the Doc about. We feel like we went a week there, and there's a lot more coming out now. Calvin Shepard, John Morton. We'll pick the Doc's brain on all that, talk a little draft. How we doing, boys? All right, muted. You guys, I mean, we got to get our shit together here, boys. What are we doing?
You know what? The music's like turned Maximilian. You know, I'm
no.
Klotz, get my back here.
This is on you.
Hit the Klotz, me and you versus this guy, dude. Come on.
Versus this guy. Hey, I was muted as well. I was clowning Booner for being muted, and I was muted.
No,
yeah, I'll tell you what. Hey, I feel good today. It's a good Wednesday. The Doc coming on is always a good time, so I'm pumped up. Can't wait. I'm excited. The Doc was trying to troll on Twitter today. So I'm excited to hear. He's probably going to come. He's been texting all week, pumping himself up about all these articles and things that he's been spot on with. He's probably listening right now. So I'm excited to see what kind of energy this guy has coming into today.
Yeah. I mean, boys, we're day 2 into what did you call it, Boone? The Johnny Mo?
The Johnny Mo show.
Yeah, we're day 2 into it officially. And yeah, I mean, it's still, the questions are there, but can't wait to ask Doc later. Get to talk some more ball with you fellas. I know we have some stuff planned for the show, so can't wait. Gonna be a good show, fellas.
Yeah.
Well, Jeff, how are you feeling? You didn't really say how you're feeling. You just introduced the boys. How are you feeling? I want to know that.
Great. I'm feeling great. We got locked in for the combine, so we'll be out there Thursday to Sunday. I cannot wait. This month, it's gonna be a lot of fun. Now we're kind of shifting. We got the Super Bowl. And then it's off-season content, draft content, which last year we covered literally. I mean, we were very thorough with the draft and free agency. So I'm excited. Although it stinks the Lions won't be playing in the Super Bowl, but hey, it is what it is. The off-season, though, it's time to go. I cannot wait.
Lock in.
Yeah. Draft time is it's an exciting time. You know, a lot of teams feel like they get an opportunity here to bounce back. The Lions are now picking at the end of the draft. This is the second year in a row now. Brad's picking at the end of the draft. So I'm get to see him cook a little bit. You know what I mean? So I'm excited. I'm fired up about it. But like I said, we're going to get in. The Senior Bowl's been happening, and there's been some players kind of sticking out there. Mike Green, notably, a big guy. I mean, he's been tearing it up out there. So we'll get to him at 8:30, or just really edges in the draft too in general, because that's probably a position the Lions are going to get. I mean, again, Brad Holmes, best player available. I get it. But hey, you need an edge. You just do. Get edge to the D. Hashtag edge to the D.
Edge to the D. It's back. We had it during the trade deadline. I think it's going to be in full force over the next few months. I'm excited too for free agency coming up that we're going to be able to see. Maybe he goes out and gets an edge in free agency. I don't know, but I still think first round draft pick, you get yourself an edge. Have to. Yeah. Edge to the D. Hashtag.
With you. That should never go away, Boone, until they have another one, even 2, I'd say, on the other side of Aiden Hutchinson that have proven something. Like, still, just keep adding to it. Even if you're like, I think we're going to add one more just in case. Keep AQM around.
I hate to be the guy, too, like, and I know this is easy to say, but, like, to be the guy to look at past drafts and be like, you passed on this guy. Like, it's happened, and you could have had just some dudes next to Aiden Hutchinson on the opposite side over the last couple of years if that's what you focused on. So that's it is disappointing. Not disappointing because I saw a lot of things today too. And shout out the Heavies. I was watching them a little bit. There's I guess there's fans out there right now that are commenting about Brad Holmes missing last year and how it was a bust of a draft class. Just a lot of different things, but I don't know. It's just a weird thing this year. And I guess there's people saying he has to hit on every pick this. I just think it's you have to at least get an edge rusher in this draft. You have to hit on an edge rusher. It's he hasn't, outside of Aiden Hutchinson, you really have not hit on an edge rusher in the last 4 years. And the Hutch one was the number 2 overall pick. So it's like, for me, it's like that should be your number 1 priority the next 2 months, is finding an edge rusher in that first or second round, especially how deep this class is, where you're confident to go into the season with them. And if you don't, disappointment, in my opinion. That's just me. That's me. I don't think the whole draft class is a disappointment, because he could still get some guys, but I think there is one position group out of this whole team that's like a pretty glaring need.
Yeah. And it's tough to say about last year's draft too, because it just, you like to say Brad likes to cook in draft classes, but last year's draft class as of right now is just still extremely raw. And like Terran Arnold, you hope that he's going to be able to pick it up in year 2. We all believe in him. But last year, like, that was probably the down year of Brad's classes so far, just because he looked 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, nothing really there. But you see Christian Mahogany in the 6th round really step up, and he looks like he can be the guard of the future. So it definitely was not Brad's best draft. But this year, chance to definitely like go get the thing that derailed it is they were all project pieces. And we've been saying it this offseason, like, enough of the project picks. Like, go get guys that can translate right now. If you want to take a project pick in the 5th, 6th round, okay, then I really do not care. But in those first 3 rounds, I would say even the 4th round, because of like you get Amon-Ra St. Brown, no project players, no build-up players, no having the window open for their playing time be 3 years down the road. Like, no, get guys that can contribute to this defensive line, to this defensive back room, and then even the offensive line room immediately if they need it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at last year's class, like Terran Arnold, to be determined, Ennis Rakestraw, to be determined, Giovanni Manu, project, like his upside, but still a project. We don't know if he's going to work out or not. Sione Vaki, I think at that point, like, he's just probably going to be what he is, which is like a solid special teamer, which is fine. That's a 4th round pick. Makai, I actually like. I think Makai,
yeah, that's a good one too.
And then Mahogany, I do like. So it's not a complete like bust of a draft, but to your point, it's more about the projects, man. It's like this team is at a point now where you saw how important depth was this year. The guys that could play right away. You know, and that's what should be a priority. I don't expect him to hit on every draft pick this year. I think that's
I just think you need to fill these gaps. Whether you do it free agency or the draft, it has to get filled.
If there's people out there putting that type of pressure, it's like just the fact that Brad's been so good that we're poisoned to believe that he'll hit on every pick. He won't, but to your point, Booner, if you can hit on an edge, which, I mean,
I think it's important.
Honest, he hasn't done. Like James Houston, besides Aiden, James Houston, but he's cut, so he's no longer
Josh Levi. Like, there's just guys in the defensive line, like Aleem's defensive tackle, but just guys that are on the edge. It's just you really haven't seen one come through. And what's his name? Who's the guy that the Rams drafted in the 2nd round?
Braden Fitz.
Like, that's a guy we kept talking about, and he goes out there 6.5, 7 sacks this year, and it's like you could have probably got him or trade up in the 2nd round, get him over a Rakestraw or something. And it's just like there are these moments where it's like, I know Brad is big on, hey, drafting in the moment, the best player. And the argument today I heard, again, shout out to Heavies, but the argument that I think it might have been Spencer bringing up or someone was that, you know, hey, even if you draft guys, where do you put them on this team? Because you have such a good roster. Guys just got hurt. But it's like, no, like, even when guys are healthy, like, and that's part of it too. It's like you are going to get guys that hurt. When you're signing guys that are typically injured, Emmanuel Mosley's, you know, Marcus Davenport's, like guys like that are typically injured, and those are the guys you're relying on for the season. You still can go out there and draft. Like, there are still position groups on this team. You might have one of the best rosters in the NFL. There are still position groups that need to be filled out, and you need depth at. And I think that's the same thing with the corner room. We talked about, you have Terrion and Carlton. Okay, get someone with some more in free agency. Go get someone to compete in there. Go get some edge rushers to compete. Like, build up. Like, just like, you don't settle. Like, you don't just be like, we're content with what we have. You want to upgrade positions constantly. Yeah, you have the best safeties. You have linebackers, but like, you constantly want to find ways to upgrade your roster. And to me, it's like the number one thing you start with is, hey, where are the gaps? And if you go into a draft, a deep edge draft, fill the gaps, get your edges, and figure that out, and go find someone who's going to contribute. And that's kind of where I'm at with it. And it's like, I don't think it's a bad thing for people to say, hey, we have to hit on an edge. Like, you haven't. And that obviously, even when everyone's not injured and healthy, you have Hutch. Who's your other great edge that you're going to sit there with if you don't bring Za'Darius back? You don't have one. You don't. That's been a problem. And that's where I do get frustrated with some people with the Lions, talking about the Lions. It's like, there is some, there is room for improvement. Like, guess what? You've lost 2 years in a row in the playoffs. Yeah, one's because of injuries, but like, there is room for improvement. And we know it's the pass rush. Like, people are complaining about how, the corners aren't doing great. Oh, but that's because it's a bad pass rush. Oh, There you have it. Go get some pass rushers. Like there's a
help 'em
position
out.
group to upgrade.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I want to mention too, for Brad Holmes, like looking at the whole philosophy there about best player available, like that can't be true for some picks, right? Like there's no way that Broderick Martin was the best player available. Like there's no way.
No,
There's
I mean,
no way that Giovanni Manu, although I like his upside, was the best player available. So it's like that's his philosophy, but like the goalpost kind of moves a little bit depending on the player. Like if you're taking best player available, there should be 0 projects because you're not taking projects. You're taking the best player available. So I think Brad's trying to balance that. It's like best player available versus someone with upside. It's like, well, then just be honest then, just be like, hey, it's not always best player available. We're going to take some guys. Like
we have some needs. We have needs.
Yeah. It's like, it's not completely true, or, and we'll see like this year, let's say the best player available is a wide receiver. You taking it? No, fuck no, you're not, dude. It's not always best player available. You're not taking a wide receiver in the first round. So like even Brad knows like that.
Stop, Klotz.
To say that,
I love wide receivers in the first
player available, but like in all realness, it's not. It's not. It's not. Like Brad knows that if an edge is there at 28 and he's a really good player, there might be another player that's higher rated, but it's like a position in need that they don't even need. Then you don't take the edge. You know what I mean? You don't force a pick. If he's worth the pick, you take him.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's where I'm at with it.
The comment too, and shout out Michael Lucci's, man. He sends us a bunch of good stuff. But he said Brad doesn't draft that way, forcing them to fill in the gaps in the draft is where you make mistakes. See, I agree, disagree. Like, I think what your gaps are this year, and I think this draft might be a little different of a mindset because you have a full roster essentially besides the edge room. And guess what? The edge is probably one of the deepest positions in this draft class. So for me, it's like you're all in on edge in this draft class. Like I think it's evident. It's obvious. Like you have to go all in on this draft class with your edges. Like you have to. There's no like, hey, best player. No, some of the best players in this draft, like top to bottom, edges. That's one of your needs. And it's like if you ignore that fact and you're just like, well, I just really love this wide receiver. I really love this guy. Like, no, you're just going to keep going around the fact. Guess what? Like, your defense is going to struggle to get built because you're constantly not building up your defensive line. What happens if Hutch goes down for a couple of games in big moments next year? What happens if, you're another Zadarius Smith is your 2 and he goes down? You need that. Like, there is a point to where it's like it might hurt, but Davenport's hurt. Like, there is a point where it's like, yes, best player available or whoever, like your mindset, whoever you think is the right guy. But there is a point to where it's like you do have to build the roster out. I feel like Brad's done. I said it pretty clearly. For the first 4 years, Brad has had the luxury of being like, we need every position. Outside of quarterback, we need everything.
Yeah.
There's nothing we don't need. We need everything. And that's where it's like, hey, the whole BPA and all that Tyler Chevet just put in the chat, like you're in year 4, you have a full roster. Now it's about drafting for what you need on your football team and who's going to come in and impact. That's what the Chiefs do. That's what the Eagles do. That's what the Ravens do. That's what all those guys do. They went BPA for so long in their career. Now they not like, look at the Eagles' last 2 drafts. Those are position groups that they ended up needing because guys were leaving or they had to pay guys and they had to move on from guys. They replaced them.
It's like best player available at the position you need.
Yes.
And if there's a significant drop-off, if there's a drop-off, like if there's no, let's say hypothetically, every edge in this class had a 3rd round grade, hypothetically, then obviously you wouldn't take an edge in the first round. That's not what it's not like, oh yeah, like even if all these guys are 3rd round grades and there's not a single edge worth taking in the first round, Brad should take one. No. But if there's an edge that's close, let's say hypothetically Ashton Gentry is there at 28 and there's James Pierce Jr. You're not taking Gentry, even though he's the better player. Like it's not a hard concept. Like you're taking the edge. Like, what the fuck is Gentry going to do? Like that's why it's like, sometimes I'm just like, dude, like it's like,
I would say, I don't typically get mad at Brad, but if Brad, like, listen, if one of these good edges are on the board at 28 and you're sitting there like, take it. And he goes like wide
trades
receiver.
Up for Tyler Warren.
Yeah. Or he just gets a tight end or he just makes like a wild move. And it's like, typically people be like, oh, trust in Brad. Like, but at that point you're like, why have, like, I know the injuries, but outside of injuries, if the guys were healthy, what was the biggest thing on this team?
Yeah.
The defensive line.
And again, like
getting to the quarterback.
The proof's in the pudding. Like Brad's an excellent drafter. Like no one here is insinuating that the dude can't draft. Like that's not what this is about. It's just about our expectations. And honestly, an edge in the first round is our expectation. Like I think.
Yeah. At what point do we mature as people that talk about the team, and as well as fans, do we mature and be like, hey, it's year 4. Brad has put together the best roster in the NFL. Now it's time to fill in the gaps. Like when do you mature and just be like, hey, like it's no longer just like trusting Brad. It's, hey, Brad, go do this because this is what we need. Like, you know what I mean? Like as a fan base, like get the mature. Yeah, you're past that point. You're 4 years in with the Super Bowl roster. Welcome to being that good. Like now it's about filling in the pieces. It's no longer just. That's how I look at it. And maybe after the first 2 rounds, then it's BPA and let Brad go out there and get his Amon-Ra St. Browns and Kirby's and those types of guys. Like go cook after that.
Let's get to some of these comments. Ball Don't Lie says a Gentry Gibbs double backfield would slap. To be fair,
that would be great. I love D-Mont though. I love D-Mont.
Let Jameer have the backfield to himself.
Love D-Mont.
John says, so you want instant, not the future? No, I want both. Actually, you can have both.
I'd say I
think
it's
you can have someone that impacts you instantly and is good for the future. Why does it have to be either a project or someone that's just gonna fizzle out in 2 years? Like, why can't there be both? Why can't?
Right, dude.
You know what I mean?
The Eagles is like the biggest point to that. It's like last year, Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, both starting as rookies on their defense, one at the nickel, one at the corner. The year before, you have Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith. Like, what are we talking about here? Like back-to-back years. The year before, Jordan Davis, another absolute dog. Cam Jurgens, their starting center. But then you look at like behind them, like N'Kobe Deans, the Kelly Ringos, Jeff Tanner McKee, like Jeremiah Trotter. Like they draft guys who are going to be like depth guys. But those first 2 rounds, this is the argument I had with you guys a couple of days ago, and I was trying to just break it down to where it's like your first 2 rounds, you have to go get someone going forward that's going to impact next year to win the Lombardi. And don't say, well, you can get guys that can develop. No. The Super Bowl contenders get guys that help out instantly in the first 2 rounds.
And even Michael says Carter and Cooper DeJean weren't needs. They were a BPA. I mean, but here's the thing, Michael. The Eagles, they needed corners last year. Bad. So although you were right.
That was one of their weaknesses last year.
I think this is where we can break bread. It's like both things can be true. Like Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean were the best players available, but they also fit a need. They played right away for a reason. Like Maddox or the nickel corner they had.
Maddox,
he was toast. They didn't want Maddox out there. I have actually a buddy who's an Eagles fan. He was like, yeah, no way in hell this dude's playing again. And
James Bradbury cooked.
And he said they already had taken Mitchell. Like Cooper DeJean was never going to play outside corner. Like, he was always going to be like.
No, they needed the more the merrier.
Or he was going to get moved to safety at some point. Like
it's kind of like the Lions. It's the same. Like the Lions needed corners. They took 2 corners in the first 2 rounds. It's.
That's anyway. Like this year, like Brad. And you know what? The point's dead. The whole point's dead because last year you needed corner. To your point, Jeff, they took the corners. Guess what? This year, Brad, you need to take edges. Guess what he's going to do? He's probably going to take edges. So as much as Brad is like, I don't fill out the roster through the draft. I do that through free agency. Brad, guess what? You did it last year with Ennis Rakestraw and Terrion Arnold. You did what you said you don't do. He did it. You know what I mean? Like he says, I don't fill out the roster. He filled the roster out. He could have probably gone anyone else there in that first. Let's call it spade a spade, boys. The man traded up for Terrion because he knew he needed another corner on his team.
Oh, bad.
It wasn't just because of the player. Like it was because of the Terrion.
Yes.
It was also because he knew in the back of his head, we need a corner. And that's the thing. It's like Brad, if we want to actually say like Brad, he's gonna think that this year and he's gonna go get an edge. It's gonna happen.
It's like both things can be true. Like there's not even, like we all kind of are on the same page here. And Andrew Jones says, if that's what you expect, then Brad will make sure it doesn't happen. That's fair, Andrew. Dom Yusuf says, Jeff, are you looking at Jalen Milroe in the draft?
Oh, great question, Jeff. Are you? I heard that's your guy.
Also, shout out Dom, by the way. Dom also put in here that the Lions need to draft Jalen Milroe to replace Goff. Listen.
Jalen Milroe looks so bad in the Cedar Bowl, man.
Dom says, need to replace Goff with a Hurts type of guy. Draft Jalen Milroe.
With a Hurts type of guy.
Jalen Milroe, to put it, I'll use as less words as I need to. Jalen Milroe is ass. Okay, that's the bottom line. He is someone that is exciting to watch. He's exciting to watch. One of the most athletic. I think I was watching a podcast too, and someone from Alabama said he's the most athletic on the team. Like he's a specimen of an athlete. But actually playing quarterback, I'm okay. Like I'm good. Like I'll take Hendon Hooker right now over Jalen Milroe. So no. I listen.
Good value late in the first, Jeff.
Yeah, late in the sixth. I'm not. I'll tell you this. Okay, I root for him, but if I'm a GM, I'm not touching Jalen Milroe. I'm just not.
Yeah, I'm out on him.
I don't see that translating. I don't. Like he's not. No, I don't.
Dude, I watched some clips of him at the Senior Bowl this week. Man, struggling. It was like a 2-minute clip of him just tough passes, can't make a play. It's a little. I want to say sad, but it's tough, man. I hate seeing guys' dreams. Maybe he ends up being great, and I look dumb, but from what we're seeing,
I'd love to be wrong. Prove me wrong. Hopefully, maybe this message finds him. And he's just like, you know what? Fuck this guy. I'm going to go be an all pro MVP caliber player. Go ahead. Awesome. I think some team will take him. Obviously, there's always the team that's like, maybe we can turn this guy into something. But realistically, there's other quarterbacks that would take over him. Like, honestly, there's probably, I would say 4 to 5 guys that will take over Jalen.
All right, let's hear it. Give us the list.
So I would start with the top 2, Shedeur and Cam. I would take Jackson Dart. I would even, honestly, Quinn Ewers over Jalen Milroe. I would even take
Dylan Gabriel.
Dylan Gabriel. Like those guys, that's 4. Give me another one. Other QBs.
Jackson Dart?
No, I think that's 4.
No, you wouldn't take Jackson Dart?
No, it's 5. I already named him. So that's 5. Yeah. Like those guys are all, again.
There'll be a Tanner McKee. There'll be a Tanner McKee that Jeff likes this year too. You don't know about
Will Howard. I mean, Will Howard's out there. Thank you, Shift God and Ball.
I have heard some things about Will Howard's stock going up. You know, actually, whose stock's going up on Twitter? Your guy Klotzy, Kyle McCord. He's been working out and doing stuff, I was reading and watching videos of him like doing. I don't know if it's pro day or whatever it is, but everyone's saying like Kyle McCord's getting overlooked. I'm like, wow. What a name.
That locker room video.
What a name, man.
My God.
Hey, he was good at Syracuse this year. Yeah. He probably would have won a national championship.
Singing Klotz.
The locker room.
To be honest, if Kyle McCord was still playing, if Kyle McCord was on Ohio State, they win the national championship, and maybe they actually beat Michigan.
You were never winning a national championship with Kyle McCord.
Maybe you win the national championship, and you might actually have a chance to beat Michigan.
Will Howard,
he lost with the best wide receiver core that I would say this year.
When he lost to Michigan, did they get a chance in the college football playoffs?
No.
So yeah, you can't compare him to Will Howard then.
Yeah,
Will Howard and the 4 team wouldn't have gotten a chance. Will Howard would have been the same as Kyle McCord if it was a 14 playoff. He would have been the same as Kyle McCord if it was a 14 playoff. If it was a 14 playoff. He literally did the same thing Kyle McCord did. Had a good year, lost to Michigan. He's out. Like, that's what would have happened to Will Howard if it wasn't 12 team. He's the luckiest guy in the world that they just so happened to switch to a 12 team playoff. Like, he is so lucky because he would have lost to Michigan and he wouldn't have made the playoffs. He would have won a natty. What a bum Will Howard is.
Okay. Well, that didn't happen. And if you just simply watched Ohio State, if you watched both of them play, it was night and day. Will Howard and Kyle McCord.
I don't know. I'm just 2-0. I haven't lost to them in my life. So
yeah.
I don't really know.
In your life, you haven't lost.
I haven't lost to Kyle McCord or Will Howard.
Yeah, not many people like. Congrats! Like
you're saying, not many people. A lot of people have. Not Michigan.
Did not lose to Will Howard.
Yeah, that's a hell of a
McCord.
Yeah. Hey, I'm just letting you know.
Kyle McCord, sneaky.
Klotz, by the way, Klotz, I text you on the side. Can you look at your phone?
Let's read. I'll
not out loud. Not out loud, please. Not out loud because it's something funny. Come on, Jeff. Let's continue the show.
Okay. All right. Well,
Just
I got
all
you, Boone. I got you, Boone.
all right. Yeah. I mean, what are we doing here? All right. Hey, AG's poking. He's poaching more staff.
He's
away.
poking the bear.
He is poking the bear right now. I mean, Steve Hyden, the Lions tight end coach, he's leaving for the Jets to be their offensive line coach. So he's gone. He's out of here. Okay.
I mean, this is like the sky is falling. Like I'm
that one I don't really. I'm not worried about.
But you know what this tells me though?
Tanner's gone.
Gone.
Yeah, gone.
They're building a stat. Like,
can you pull that back up?
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question?
Go ahead, Boone.
Aaron Glenn is building out his own version of Detroit's offense. How do you guys think that works out? Genuinely,
it's no, dude.
Like with Aaron Rodgers, with Garrett Wilson, Devontae Adams probably gone. You could get all the positional coaches you want. You can get Tanner all you want. This is that thing, Jeff. And I think we would have had the same conversation if Tanner gets the OC job in Detroit. Is like Tanner still has to live up to the expectation. Like he still has to live up to the hype. And there's no like guarantee that Tanner is that. And I think it's the same thing going if he goes to New York. You still like now the expectation, even though he's in New York and it's not Detroit, there's still going to be an expectation because he's coming from behind Ben Johnson and the Detroit Lions offense. Like New York fans are going to kill him if this offense is, even though it might be in a rebuild, but he's going to get killed just as much as he would in Detroit if he didn't have a good offense, because I think the whole fan base is like, hey, we're getting Ben Johnson's protege. We're getting the Detroit Lions offense. Like, and if it doesn't work out, they're going to be extra mad. That's why he should have probably just went and got a vet OC, to be honest.
Because I mean, even like as much crap as we're talking about John Morton, at least me, I should say, like there's still fans in New York who probably like are, who the hell is Tanner Engstrand? And then you look back and you're like, oh, passing game coordinator for the Detroit Lions. So you feel good about it. But when you go from the Detroit Lions offense to the New York Jets offense, and I understand that Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, and they have some guys in the offensive line. They drafted Fashanu last year. They got a center there. So their offensive line isn't terrible. But now you're going in a division where the Patriots are probably going to be at the same level as you. And you look at Mike Vrabel, he usually has good defenses. Doug McDermott. And then I'm not really too concerned about Miami. They're probably going to be falling apart slowly. But for Tanner, there's no we're acting like John Morton, like it's guaranteed for him to fail, but we're acting like at the same time it was guaranteed for Tanner Engstrand to succeed at some point. And that's just simply not the case. So I think it's definitely a risk for New York to do that as well. I agree with you, Boone. I think for AG, at least going into this rebuild, because it is a complete rebuild in New York, you want a guy with experience, but they got Steve Wilkes on the defensive side of the ball. So I see what they're trying to do there, but even offensively, like that's an offense that needs life. And I think that's a stretch to put on Tanner Engstrand to kind of rebuild that Jets offense, which hasn't been alive in ever.
Yeah, I still believe coaching in the NFL it matters a ton, but
yeah,
I would never argue that personnel doesn't matter at all. Like personnel, like when you run, when with some of these simple run concepts or passing concepts that Ben has or Tanner helps or Hank Fraley helps with, like when you have Jahmyr Gibbs running the ball, I fully aware it helps. Or you have the best offensive line, one of the best, whatever. If you want to argue with the Eagles, blocking, it helps. You know, like Jared Goff, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sam Laporta, like it helps. I don't want to discount that. So you want to go take the offensive philosophy over to New York? Awesome. Maybe it's a breath of fresh air for some of those players, but at the end of the day, you don't have the same players. And I don't know what level Aaron Rodgers is going to be at next year, man. Like he is. Mm-hmm. Last year he looked cooked. Like he looked.
Yeah, and I was thinking this too. Like you just move on from him, right? Just go draft the quarterback. Yeah. I told you guys before the show started. Actually, we were talking about quarterbacks in the draft, and the thing I told you guys was like, I would rather go out and draft a quarterback and just start fresh, personally. Or you know what, go out and get another quarterback out there that's maybe a little younger. I don't think like Sam Darnold because New York hates him, but I'm just thinking of a guy like that'd be
awesome though.
Yeah, but just a guy that's looking to keep his career going. Like imagine if you know what. This is actually a really good one. There's I might be the first one to say this, and if it happens, I want all credit all around the National Football League. There's rumors today. Matthew Stafford potentially not with the Los Angeles Rams next season. He's playing football in 2025, but they said his future in Los Angeles is up in the air. Imagine AG, who was in Detroit with Stafford, or not. No, he wasn't actually. He came over. They traded him right away. But I don't know when Tanner got to Detroit. Was he here with Ben? Was he here with Patricia? Was Tanner here with Patricia with Ben?
That I don't know.
We should look into that, because if we look into that, imagine Matthew Stafford to the New York Jets with Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, and you build that. Just saying. I'm just saying. Someone said Stafford to Vegas. I don't hate it. I'm just saying.
Vegas.
Only thing I'm thinking of with New York is if you move on from a quarterback, you draft a young guy, you probably have to bring someone in just to kind of fill that void, a bridge guy. So that was just off the top of my head, because I just saw a tweet about Matthew Stafford right before the show.
I mean,
Tyler said I think Stafford would retire. I don't think he would. I think there's a chance he doesn't play for the Rams. He literally, the report came out that he's playing in 2025. Future with the Rams up in the air. So it's obviously he's willing to go somewhere else.
If you went to the Jets, you're basically trading a cooked quarterback for another quarterback.
But you draft a rookie, you bring in Stafford, and you let him learn under Stafford in New York.
Yeah. And Stafford, he's not to the extent of Rodgers, but he's getting up there. He's not quite what
Stafford still got a season or two where he can play.
Dude, he is slinging it this year, dude. He's playing at a high level still.
He was out there making plays. He wasn't Stafford of their Super Bowl run, but I'd still take him over Kyler Murray.
I'll tell you what, and this might be a bad take. I think Stafford could still win a Super Bowl. But he's playing out
in the right spot. Absolutely. You put him in San Francisco, they're winning a Super Bowl.
Oh my gosh, he should do that, dude. Oh wow.
That would never happen because he's still signed there for how many
Brock, and they said that Brock's the guy of the future. They're re-signing Brock this offseason, I'm sure. Which is crazy.
I'd like to see him in Miami would be dope.
That's a good spot with Mike McDaniel. And Mike McDaniel was in LA. Wasn't he at one point?
He was in San Francisco.
Was he not in LA with Sean?
He was with the Browns with Shanahan.
I've got my coaching.
No. Mike McDaniel, he was an offense assistant with Shanahan. That's Shanahan's guy.
He was not in LA at all.
I don't believe so. I think
you know what he was though.
Oh, Washington.
He was in Washington with Sean McVay. Like that was a while ago. That was when Mike Shanahan was the coach. But
this is good. This is good ball knowledge. I feel like I'm in a trivia show right now.
It would be a little ironic though that Matthew, who just spent most of his career for a dysfunctional organization, joins the Rams and then goes to a dysfunctional organization like the Jets or the Dolphins. Like that would be. Maybe he likes the toxicity. Maybe he likes it toxic a little bit. Maybe he's like, you know what? He's like, I've had too much fun here. Like, I want to go to the Jets, spice it up a little bit. New York media, I love dealing with that. Go over there and deal with that.
Veneers would look great.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, what pick do the Jets have? They have like top 10? They have to. I don't know where they're at.
Around there.
They should take a quarterback. I mean, it depends who it is, I guess. It'd probably be like Jackson Dart. I don't know if he's top 10, but I don't know. We'll see. Maybe he does rise. But at this point, it's probably a little reach. Yeah, 8. They pick 8, 7, 8. I see 2 different ones. Whatever. Top 10. Yeah, that's a stretch probably for a quarterback. But they have a high second-round pick.
Yeah, Dylan Gabriel action.
Yeah.
With Jackson Dart, like you're saying. Oh.
Yeah, imagine Kelly Stafford in New York. She would probably love it.
Oh, I'll tell you what, media would love her, dude.
Oh my gosh, she'd get eaten alive out there.
She'd yap her mouth off for sure.
I mean, yeah, that would be rough. I want to show you guys this clip too. I want to play it on the show here. It's Mike Green, what he was doing at the Senior Bowl. I know we kind of talked about him earlier, but I mean, this is a freak. I mean, this is a freak of an athlete here. I mean, this guy, and this is just one clip, but throughout the Senior Bowl, he's been just like, look, I mean, that's not even fair. I mean, Klotz, you got to see him. He faced Ohio State. And I think the thing for me is like, dude, for a guy like him, as good as he is, when you're playing for Marshall and you're facing Ohio State and you're down 20 something points and he's still like giving 110% effort late in like the fourth quarter and gets Will Howard down. I'm like, you know what? I respect the hell out of that dude. I think Mike Green's going to be a really good player. I think he's probably going to go top 15. I've seen him mocked to the Bengals. You mentioned the 49ers before the show. Like he's going to be a damn good player, man. He will be.
Yeah, and I was talking about it yesterday, and this is reminding me exactly, and I know Khalil Mack went top 5, but when you saw Khalil Mack coming out of Buffalo, and he played Ohio State, had an amazing game against Ohio State. Like Khalil Mack, even with Ohio State out there, was the best player on the field between the two teams. And that might not have been the situation this year with Mike Green because Jeremiah Smith was out there. But when you look at it, he could have been the best defensive lineman on Ohio State. So this is going to be a situation, Booner brought up yesterday, kind of a Quinyon Mitchell. But when you look at Mike Green, there's zero flaws. And the fact that he's a defensive end and you look at the teams drafting in the top 15 of the draft, they're a team that can use defensive end for days. And I like to your point exactly, Jeff, the fact that he was going balls to the wall while he's down against Ohio State. Like if Brad Holmes was in the top 15, Mike Green would be a no-brainer. So I wouldn't be surprised. We've seen Brad move up in the draft. This would be a guy that I absolutely think Brad Holmes would go up and try to make a move for because no way, no how will he be available at 28. Hopefully he could be there at the early 20s. We saw Brad move up this year, but Mike Green's going to be one of the better defensive ends that come out of this class because against the run, against the pass, he's able to do it all. And he's obviously going to be a guy that's not going to lose that tenacity that got him to this point. I mean, you're at Marshall, you're the Thundering Herd. Like you don't see guys come out of there that often. So when you see somebody projected go in the top half of the first round, definitely a reason to take a look at him.
Hey, his stats, boys. The man had 17 sacks on top of 81 total tackles. Like that's ridiculous. That's like a different level. That 3 forced fumbles this year, 2 pass deflections. Like he is doing everything that he can. He that was his first year kind of being on that level. He was never at that level until this year. Honestly, boys, and I was thinking about this earlier, and a lot of people are commenting. I posted the video of this. A lot of people are saying like, Booner, he's not going to be there at 20. He's not going to be available. Listen, Brad, the last 3 drafts, Brad Holmes has had 4 drafts so far in Detroit, correct? The last 3 drafts?
4 drafts.
4 drafts. The last 3 drafts, guess what he's done? He's traded up in the first round. He makes moves. If he likes someone, he will do it. And that's where a guy like Mike Green, I think, is someone that you could look at and be like, yep. James, I'm not going to say these guys. Well, I guess we're going to go into guys throughout the week, but like a James Pierce, like some of these high-level edge rushers who it's like, hey, they might not fall out of the top 20. You get that comp pick in the 3rd round. You use that, and you go up and get another first-round pick, or not another first, but you move up in your first. Last year, I think you gave up your 3rd-round pick to move up, what was it, from 28, 29, all the way up to 21. So it's like if you need to move up to make one of those moves, you do it. And you see how the board falls. I'm interested. I don't know. I think the people should be too. Just like I'm interested in the combine process with a guy like Mike Green, James Pierce. Like some of these guys, their draft stock can go up pretty quick because like Mike Green, like you see mock drafts, he's projected like 25, 28. Some mock drafts have him a little earlier. After this week, obviously his draft stocks moved up. And then you still have the combine. Like this is just the Senior Bowl. Once he gets to the combine and you start seeing some of those numbers, pro day, like things can move quick or they can stay stagnant. So like I think it's more so for at least a Mike Green situation, like a stay and wait. But from everything we're seeing this week, it's like he's going to be an absolute dog. And if you want a game changer to put on the other side of Aiden Hutchinson, like that is a guy. That's a guy. And he might have some things that some things you need to kind of work out, some kinks you need to work out and figure that out because he was playing at Marshall. And I'm sure Khalil Mack, I'm sure some guys did going from that level to the NFL. But listen, you go out there and you go make a play on a guy like that. You have to.
Yeah. And in my opinion, like I see, because I know there's going to be other people saying it as well, like Ryan Anton in the chat. Like, why do we do this every week?
Brad's
every year?
traded up every year.
No, he's more so talking about the scheme fit where he's like, oh, he's not a power guy. But that's why I think, so what the 3 of us talked about yesterday is like, okay, if you lose Darius Smith, you replace Darius Smith. If you have an opportunity to get Mike Green, who you can damn bet your ass that Kelvin Shepard, Casey Rogers will be able to develop into an edge, he's not going to be a perfect product. But when you have the upside of a guy with the statisticals that I don't know why I said statistical. It sounded like I was saying testicles. The stats that Boone was just reading off, and you just turn on that film. there's no denying that Mike Green can be a very, very good NFL player in his career and an instant guy that you can plug and play day one, especially on a rotation. Like, I don't want the Lions to go, Mike Green, edge position is good. No, like, you lose a Darius Smith, you replace him. I'm saying a name just because to get the impact. But a Khalil Mack, doesn't have to be Khalil Mack, but a proven guy who knows how to set an edge and stop the run, also get to the quarterback on a bargain.
Hey, and why are we going to sit here, and Brad should do the same thing, and all these guys should do the same thing in that room. Why are we going to sit here and be like, well, it doesn't fit our scheme, fellas, like, this defensive line and pass rush has been bad for 4 years. At some point, you got to switch it up and say, let's just go get some guys and let's get to the quarterback. Like, I don't care about going to get a power guy, going to get a guy that's like Zadarius. Go get your best edge rusher in this draft. Like, what are we doing here?
The thing that frustrates me a little bit with that, like the scheme stuff, is people will be like, well, if you're only targeting a position, you're not going to potentially get the best player available. But then you rule out players because they're not scheme fits, even though they're great players. Like, so you're ruling out a player regardless. Like, you shouldn't be ruled out. Like, you should be. And if people are saying, build your scheme around your players.
Yes, get the best.
We've seen
the best BPA guy.
Well, they have power. Like, Josh Pascal, like, that dude's all power, no finesse. Can we get finesse? Can we get someone that can win a one-on-one? Can we get someone that can get a sack?
We have the same the same conversation every year. We talked about Levi O, Josh Pascal. These guys aren't working out. The only good edge rusher outside of maybe James Houston, where is he now? Aiden Hutchinson, number 2 overall pick that the Lions have got? No one. Because guess what? You draft as an edge, you try and draft within your scheme on the edge. Maybe at this point, it's, hey, you just go get the best edge available, similar to what you do with just go get the best guy out there. Like, to me, it's like the examples people are giving, the Levi O, the Josh Pascal, like, those are big-bodied guys, the tweeners that everyone's like, hey, that's the type of guys Dan likes. That's the type of guys this defense is built on. How did that work for you this year? Josh Pascal coming off the edge.
He was not.
Didn't do you any justice. So at some point, it's like, hey, you just got to go get a dude that can get to the quarterback at the end of the day. You can go out in free agency, or you can re-sign Zadarius Smith, get your big body guy and, the power. But you need to go out there and get just a legit edge rusher who can go get you. This guy had 17 sacks. Why would you not want to try? I don't care if you played at Marshall. Why would you? He's dominating at the Senior Bowl. Like, these are guys who are going to get drafted in the first couple rounds that he's going up against on the offensive line, and they're getting thrown around by this guy. Why would you not? Why are you literally? There's people are in the chat are literally arguing, we don't want him. We don't like, or not that we don't want him, but hey, he doesn't draft. At some point, you got to move on, and you got to say, I don't care about the tweeners. I don't care about the size. I want dudes that can play football and then get to the quarterback, because we haven't done it for the last 4 years.
Yeah. And not to mention, like, you're in a division with Caleb Williams, Jordan Love, and then now you have. People can laugh at all they want, but J.J. McCarthy is mobile. You have Jaden Daniels, Jalen Hurts, like, and then you go to the AFC. Like, you need guys that can get after mobile quarterbacks, and we could see, like, if they would have drafted Darius Robinson last year, like, he was not stopping Josh Allen. Like, they do not have the athleticism on that defensive line outside of Aiden Hutchinson, who was the number 2 overall pick. Sorry, you're not going to be drafting number 2 overall anytime soon. So you're not going to get that caliber of player. You need a guy that can diversify your defensive line. And if you look at Mike Green, the dude flies all over the fucking field. Like, you're going to tell me, no, keep doing what we're doing on the defensive line because it's worked. Like you just said, Boom. Like, you can't just keep playing.
I don't want to see John.
Can I ask you guys this question with that? Because this is the thing that I saw on Twitter today in my comments, and I've seen it throughout the Twitter world, is that the Lions prioritize the run, that it's the run game. Mike Green's not that great in the run game. I mean, the man had 80 tackles, but like, he's not great in the run game. I'm just like, at some point, right? Like, I just feel like you've been great in the run, and I think part of that too is like Anzo, the way Anzo plays the run and fill in the gaps. Like, I just feel like you look at, like, you just have to get dudes that can get to the quarterback in the pass rush. You have to, and it's like, I don't care at that point if you can't stop the run. If you can get some guys in there who can get to the quarterback on those downs, your defense gets to a different level. Like, it helps Terrion and Carlton out. It helps the secondary out. Like, to me, it's just a whole different world that the Lions have just ignored for the last 4 years of trying to get like outside of Hutch, of just getting the pass rush.
I just don't ever want to see Josh Pascal trying to chase down a mobile quarterback. That's what I was going to say. I don't want to see that. I don't want to see it. You know who I do want to see? Well, before we get to him, actually, because I want to bring this up. El Guapo. I like, hey, El Guapo. Look who we played next season.
Great
Jackson
point, El Guapo.
Holmes Burrow. Thank you, El Guapo, for the $5.
What's Guapo mean?
Money.
The money. Love that. Isn't El the?
You're asking the wrong guy.
I took Spanish for about 3 or 4 years.
Then you 3 or 4 years, you should know what El Guapo. So
Spanish
what is
2, Spanish 3. I got through it, but
bro? Just
don't remember a thing. I know like 1 through 10.
Oh yeah, I am wrong. I don't know why I thought money or
Guapo
no.
means
Hold on,
because you think of guap.
Hey, Jasmine, are you awake?
Oh, that's
She's sleeping. She's sleeping. I was gonna get it directly from the source. No, what does guap mean?
Guapo.
Guapo.
She's
Yeah. She's looking at me confused. I woke her up. I'm gonna be in trouble.
Oh,
But anyways,
no,
all right.
God,
She's confused.
bro.
I dazed her.
No, I think maybe it's handsome. We'll bring in.
Handsome. Okay, the handsome.
Let's John Hughes. It's handsome. You dope.
Yeah, actually, why don't we just, I mean, the craziest thing is like we live in a world with Google. Yeah, it's literally handsome.
Google's ruined our
Like the
generation.
handsome.
Let's bring in our special guest. You guys, you know who it is. Every single Wednesday, Mr. John Maakaron, one of the best in the city, best in the state, covers the Detroit Lions. Sports Illustrated, Detroit Lions on Sports Illustrated. You can check it out for all your Detroit Lions news, updates, and listen to the podcast as well, because John's spitting every single week. Yeah, he spits on this show a lot, but he's doing his other stuff as well. Okay. This is brought to you, as always, by BetUS. Please welcome Mr. John Maakaron. John, what's going on?
Fellas, what's happening? How's it going? Also, give me the follow at Detroit Podcast, where you get some insider news. If you were there Friday, you saw that the DOC, the only reporter who said, hey, check out the great name John with an H, John Morton. Keep this name at the forefront of your attention. He's perfect. I was told that. I researched it, and it ended up being that's the Detroit Lions offensive coordinator. So it's an interesting time. Seems like the Lions fan base is panicking, kind of showing themselves a little bit not used to the NFL world plucking their coaches. It's an intriguing time right now for sure.
So, John, I feel like we have so much to catch up with you about. Like, I guess I'll start with Kelvin Shepherd. I'll start with him. Okay, Kelvin Shepherd. I think we had this conversation with you, and my big thing, John, was my worry was having a rookie coordinator. Obviously, you don't have both rookie coordinators, but I always figured it was going to be on the offensive side of the ball, given Dan's more offensive minded. I thought defensively they would go get someone a little more proven, but Kelvin Shepherd's now the defensive coordinator. It's official. What do you make of the hire, and what do you really expect out of Kelvin this year with this defense?
Yeah, very much well expected. It was intriguing too. By the end of the year, we know that the media availability for the Lions coaches is going to start to slow down. You don't know who's going to end up lining up. So when we had a chance to talk to Kelvin Shepherd, I asked him directly, are you ready to be a defensive coordinator? And his answer was spot on, perfect. And he indicated that, hey, I'm being mentored. I get the opportunity to speak in front of the guys. And later that day, I spoke to Jack Campbell, Ezekiel Turner, spoke to Jamal Adams. And you can check out that feature that Christian and I did, where we just basically said, hey, Kelvin Shepherd's ready. And then the next day, Aaron Glenn really kind of talked about how he groomed Kelvin Shepherd to be the guy. Look, he fits the criteria. Former player, relates, and is a tough-nosed coach. I think he'll relate. I think he's going to be it's a smooth transition. It's going to be a version of Aaron Glenn's defense. So you get that continuity, you get the respect of the players. And I just think that when you listen to him, man, he's passionate, knowledgeable, and I think he brings that grit that Dan Campbell's going to like. But he's got a tall task, because that defensive line's got to do a lot more than they did in the second half of the year. You have some question marks in the secondary. Who's going to replace potentially Carlton Davis if he leaves? And you got to figure out how are you going to mix in Amik Robertson next year in regards to what role he has if Ifeatu Melifonwu comes back, how that slots out. But look, the one thing that you can guarantee is those linebackers are going to be coached up. And I expect another jump from Jack Campbell, who had a great second year. I expect Alex Anzalone. And if Derek Barnes does return, I expect the defense to probably when we start talking about the draft, when we know goal number one, no doubt about it. Even Brad Holmes knows it. Everybody in the chat knows it. When you revamp the defensive line, I think that Kelvin Sheppard is going to put a nice touch to this defensive line. I think the underrated addition of Casey Rogers, too, will make this defense flow.
Hey, Doc, I love what you said there because I brought it back the other day, the hashtag edge to the D, the Booner path through 3.0, but the edge to the D 2.0 this offseason. That is going to be that's going to be the theme of this offseason. We've seen a lot of different ones. We've seen the Booner path. We've seen draft the cocaine. We're going to see edge to the D this summer, and that's what it's going to be, and it better happen. But I do want to ask you, Doc, we'll get into players and drafts and all of that throughout the show. I want to stick just with the coordinators. I know you just talked about Kelvin there, but John Morton, I want to get your thought process on this because I had an argument with Klotz. To where Klotz was a little bit more questionable, saying, hey, you probably shouldn't have done that. You should have gone with Tanner, which I think is very, very thoughtful. And when we argued at the time, Tanner wasn't going to New York. So I changed my mind a little bit on it. Do you think this is going to work out? I know he was here in 2022. My argument was he was here in 2022 with Jared and Ben when they revamped that offense through that period when Jared kind of took that next step. Do you think that has anything to do with it? And how do you think he'll work with Jared? And is there going to be a regression in the offense?
Yeah, it's actually a very interesting segue to talk about John Morton, who I put everybody on alert to look for. But I was kind of scrolling the socials and waiting to see if anybody would acknowledge it. I literally said he's a perfect fit. Now, I was told that. I researched that. I saw the quotes first about everybody. So I was waiting for Booner or Jeff or somebody to dig a little further. It didn't happen till Sunday. The national media caught wind of what was going on. I got
to send those to me, Doc. Text me.
No.
If you find a big story, you got to text. If you want it to hit the airwaves, you got to. I'll make sure it gets out into the National Football League.
Oh, okay. No. It was good because people then caught wind that I put it in an article and it did just fine. Listen, I just put the information. If you like it, you like it. But one guy who called the offensive coordinator, you're looking at him. So I had to, like I said, I didn't just I said, hey, keep an eye out for John Morton. He's perfect. He fits the criteria. Keep an eye out for John Morton. And here's why. Here's why he was a perfect fit. Why the sources and all the people that you do the research with tell you. Look, he's done all the jobs. Now, I know everybody had the angst about the Jets. That's an outlier. When you work with the Jets, there's a given that organization is defunct and you're working with Josh McCown and talent that, hey, no coach in the world is going to uplift the Jets. And if you don't have a philosophical alignment with the coach, then clearly the issues popped up. And that's a time where, hey, at the time, maybe not the best fit for John Morton. But remember, the Lions hired him in 2022. So you remember he did interview in the past for the offensive coordinator spot. So he's had opportunities with the Lions, and then he spent the year in Detroit. Here's why it's going to work, guys. He's an offensive mastermind. He understands the concepts. Part of the reason why he spent the year with the Lions is also to work with Ben Johnson and Dan Campbell, as well to install an offense that had a lot of pre-snap motion, lots of route trees that enhanced the work of the wide receivers. It didn't just happen. It's not happenstance that Amon-Ra St. Brown has developed nicely in the system. And then he's been everywhere. He's got a lot of experience. He's served a lot of roles. Doesn't have necessarily a lot of experience play calling per se, but the installs of calls and concepts, he's worked with Dan Campbell, worked with Sean Payton. So there's alignment there. In terms of, remember too, guys, Dan Campbell always is pretty much forthright and honest. And he told the media directly that he doesn't really want to change the terminology too much, and he's going to seek input from Jared Goff. So I thought that once you saw and read kind of what was said about John Morton from the Lions in the past and from the work that he did this year with the Broncos, it was pretty clear that besides me just saying, hey, this is the next offensive coordinator, knowing that he was going to get an opportunity, hey, I thought it's a good fit. Look, his age, I know people are like, well, how much of a downgrade is it going to be? It's not. Because here's the thing. The Jimmies and the Joes on this roster will make John Morton shine. And I do think that you also got to remember that Dan Campbell will have input in this offense no matter what. And I do think that John Morton will come in and enhance the skills of Jared Goff and make sure, when you look at the numbers, the players that have worked with John Morton have shined. And you can also just take a look at the Broncos. Bo Nix really was one of the players that didn't play. He did a really good job of working with Bo Nix. So I know people don't know his name. You would have if you followed me. But you recognize that this is somebody that when I say he's a perfect fit with Dan Campbell, literally he has the vision that Dan Campbell is going to want to instill, which is, hey, run the ball, establish the run, use play action, put every single person in the position to succeed. And look, there'll still, I think, be a little bit of flash and dash for this offense for purposes. But listen, John Morton will be just fine running the Detroit Lions offense. Why? Because that offense is legitimately stacked with talent all over the place.
Doc, I just want to confirm something you said real quick. Did you say John Morton helped build this offense in 2022?
No, he was.
Okay, glad to hear that.
Offensive assistant. He worked with Tanner Engstrand. He helped to install some of the concepts in regards to working with Ben Johnson as well.
People needed to hear that.
Senior offensive assistant, and he definitely was in the mix there in a lot of the meetings. Spent a year in Detroit, and definitely helped out before getting back to Denver.
Yeah,
people needed to hear that.
Hey, hold on, Boone. Hold on. So we went down this thing of why John Morton was so good. And it's because he's been everywhere. I mean, Doc, he's been everywhere. He's been at the Frankfurt Galaxy. He's been at the University of San Diego, been at the NFL, but he's consistently been nowhere. He's consistently developed nothing. Now, I'm not saying that this dude's going to be terrible. I'm not saying that. I don't think he's going to hold back this offense. But when you talk about the perfect fit, like the perfect fit, in my opinion, is a guy who has proven something on paper for more than 1 or 2 years. Like they let him walk out the door. If he was so valuable to building this offense, in my opinion, you don't let him walk out the door. And if he was so impactful to a rookie in Bo Nix, you don't let him walk out the door. So that's where it's just like, I get when everybody tells me the things of why John Morton is so good, and at the same time scares the shit out of me, because in all the situations he's walked away or been fired. Every one of them, collegiate, UFL, NFL, you name it. He hasn't stuck anywhere. That's why it's like, okay, he's not when I think of John Morton, I don't think of the future OC for the Detroit Lions in the long run. And most likely now that you're losing or you're hiring John Morton, there's a good chance you lose Tanner Engstrand, who is supposed to be the future OC of the future the future OC for the Detroit Lions going forward. So it's like you bring in John Morton, but at what expense?
By the way, he played for Frankfurt. He didn't coach there.
Listen, Klotz, I respect your questioning it, and I saw online that you were. And as you're right, you have a right to do that. But remember that Tanner Engstrand was somebody that spent a year working with John Morton, and everything that Tanner Engstrand knows, John Morton already knows, and he's got more experience. Here's the thing. Tanner Engstrand is young, and he's in his 40s, and I think he'll succeed. But at this point in time, you recognize that would you put 2 brand new first-time coordinators when the history of the NFL says that one NFL team or 2 with 2 first-time coordinators have ever won the Super Bowl? I think the sheer level of experience and the alignment, and also, too, when you say, well, why did everybody walk? Kind of the reason why the Lions have been successful is a lot of guys are brought in off the streets that maybe don't fit other teams or other roles. But here in Detroit, in a collaborative effort, I think it's going to be hard to fail. Look at it like this. All right. You have an offensive line that's tailor-made with a couple tweaks, 2 solid running backs. You have Jared Goff in the prime of his career, and then you have all this talent on offense. Now, you have all spring. The concepts are not going to change. So, in essence, they're running the same offense. And remember that Ben Johnson evolved in this offense working with Dan Campbell. So it's not just John Morton doing everything. Dan Campbell is going to be involved. So if you have doubts, you're kind of indicating that, hey, all those hours he's going to spend working with Dan Campbell, putting together this offense and putting together a game plan is going to flop. I don't think so. I think you're going to see numbers galore. And guys, football is not rocket scientists. You're going to need a little bit offensive line. You want to run the football, and you want to run it effectively to give Jared Goff the opportunity to find open receivers. And you're going to get a better Jameson Williams. I expect him to get another 1,000 yards. The one thing that we'll talk about is I think a revamped coaching staff, kind of his new voices, new fresh ideas. And I think if you get an improved Sam Laporta and you upgrade at certain spots, this offense should continue. What are you scared about? That he's going to make the wrong calls? I think that, you can definitely maybe kind of assume that maybe that first month of the season, the trial period, but that's what training camp you got now. From the time he starts the job, probably now, until August, you don't think acclimating, working with Dan Campbell, working with that offense is going to cause such a dip? But I respect your concerns that at the highest level, when the moment's the brightest, hey, 3rd down and 1, you could do no worse. I don't think John Morton's going to run an empty set and throw the football. I don't think that's
that
going to.
was my one.
I don't think in a critical moment down 10, I don't think he's going to call Jameson Williams throwing the football. So
sounds like Klotz should like this hire.
Some veteran leadership will help this offense and a little bit more of a commitment to the run. And basically, I'm going to say this: with John Morton, Jahmyr Gibbs will have the first or second best numbers in the entire NFL next year.
Whoa, Klotzy.
Boone, let's not.
How about that, Klotz? You should love John Morton.
And you hand it to Jahmyr. He does.
You're out here.
Look at why he got fired from
You're
the
handing
Jets
out bad
wasn't
facts.
run the ball.
He didn't coach for
Toronto.
He didn't coach for Toronto.
Under John Morton, but I think either
played
way,
for Toronto.
Not stopping Jahmyr Gibbs, to your point, Doc. Like, well said. I agree. I think you're bringing up good points. I just question the hire. I see the alignment, but I question, is he the actual guy to call the shots? But we'll see. Time will tell. Time will tell. There's no definitive answer as of right now.
So, Doc, you think this offense will get right back to where they were last year? Pretty similar?
Absolutely. They were the 4th best scoring offense last year. They'll continue. And, guys, remember, too, everyone's going to get better. What would lead you to believe Amon-Ra St. Brown's not going to come back pissed? Jameson Williams getting a taste of success, 1,000 yards. He's going to be challenged now to be the number 1. You got 2 great running backs. Jahmyr Gibbs is only going to get better. He's going to be even more explosive. Now, you just have to tinker with the offensive line. Most people assume Mahogany will take the right spot. I'm not worried if they sign or don't sign Kevin Zeitler. I think that you can find a young offensive lineman or a veteran a little bit younger in free agency. You plug that in, you got 5 great starters, and now you just continue to run the football, play action with Goff, and this offense is going to score a lot of points. I just don't see them regressing, especially if you add a young draft pick at wide receiver, you add another tight end, you add some veterans along the offensive line. I just think that this offense with the talent, and Ben Johnson said it, and I agree, it's ready-made. Go out there, call the plays, and take advantage of mismatches. It's not rocket scientist. Run the football. And listen, you got the best right tackle in the NFL. Run the football, play action with Jared Goff, limit the turnovers, and in critical moments, 3rd down and 1, just run the football, smash mouth. And hey, there'll be some adjustments too as well. And remember, guys, okay, it's a team effort. And just as Dan Campbell always tells me, John, it's not just about one guy, Jared Goff. Remember, as everybody leaves, Hank Fraley stays, key member of that offensive staff that's coveted, interviewed for an offensive coordinator position. His role is, don't understate the role that Hank Fraley does have. And there's no guarantee that Tanner Engstrand leaves. Yeah, I think he's the favorite. I think he's the odds-on favorite and would be smart to take a coordinator position. But, until the ink is dry, he's still a member of the Detroit Lions offensive staff. But you still have continuity. You got Seth Ryan, who's been there. You have names that you could bring on board that can help this offense as well. So in Dan, you should trust, because remember, okay, guys, I want to say this. Dan is the true offensive mastermind of the Detroit Lions. Now, when I say mastermind, I'm talking about ins and outs, X's and O's, knows every position left and right along the offense. You don't think he learned from Sean Payton the ins and outs of the experience of how to run an offense and the X's and O's and the concepts? Guys, it's just a version of Dan Campbell. And the thing you should worry about is, okay, how do the play calls align at certain times in games? But guys, as long as Dan Campbell is patrolling the sidelines, things will be more than okay. Now, the part that I would say more worry about is the defense, because you get besieged with injuries. It could be a problem in the playoffs. defense wins championships.
Well, I want to ask, because the reason why I asked that question, Doc, is because of my next question. We talked if Goff will have a similar year than this year and be an MVP candidate. Do you think the offense will still be top of the league? Goff's coming off a rough game. People all of a sudden out on him for some reason, some Lions fans. Do you think he runs it back and he's an MVP candidate next season like he was this season?
Yeah, look, man, he's got, I can't wait to talk to him again to see kind of just really what happened against the Commanders. He got rocked by Luvu. Clearly that impacted him. It just was a terrible game. It puts it out there again that, hey, if Jared goes off and is the guy that we saw with the Rams, it's just going to be hard pressed to win games against the best of the best teams. He's got to play his best football. I know he'll be chomping at the bit. He's resilient. And so the question mark will always remain with Jared Goff. In the biggest of biggest moments with the top end defensive lineman coming down at him, ready to take him out, how does he play? He's a 500 quarterback in the postseason. He did get Detroit 2 wins last year, but this last performance, you're only judged by your last performance, and it was awful. But I think he comes back and gets better. I think he's great against the blitz. He knows he's getting better at recognizing all forms of defenses. He's got the prime experience, going to be 30 years old, entering 31. I just think that when you look at Jared Goff, you can win a lot of regular season games. It's just making sure that in the postseason, you limit the mistakes, you make the throws when you need to, and you kind of take the reins off of him a little bit and run that football early and often. And I think everybody saw that when you're facing the Commanders and they're the 30th ranked run defense, you kind of got to do what the Eagles did with Saquon Barkley. You got to execute, you got to play well, and you got to have those turnovers go your way. And I think, remember too, guys, they fell flat on their face. They fell flat on their face in the biggest stage possible. They'll come back and they'll motivate themselves to win a lot of games. Not 15, but I think they'll be, double-digit wins, 11, 12 wins. They'll get out there. They'll compete at a high level. And remember, too, guys, Brad Holmes knows that 24 class didn't have as much impact as maybe that the team would have wanted. But I'll say this. It's not a bust. It's still too early. It's still too early. You got to wait a couple of years to fully assess a draft class. But the 24 draft class could have helped a lot more. And the Eagles are proof is in the pudding. They got a little bit more output out of DeJean and their rookies and Mitchell than the Lions did.
Yeah, Doc, I do want to ask you, outside of the Lions, obviously Ben Johnson in Chicago, I think we actually chatted about it briefly, but now that his staff's kind of getting filled out, what are your thoughts on that? How do you think Chicago looks going forward with Ben Johnson? We got to see his opening press conference, and there are some people who might have said, hey, a little iffy, didn't look like a guy that can kind of lead a football team and lead men, football players to go win football games. What are your thoughts on that? How do you think Ben will do in Chicago?
Yeah, he's smart, dude. And it's so true. It's so wild to think about that. People were a little bit skeptical of Albert Breer in Sports Illustrated when he put out there on a radio station, hey, Ben likes Chicago. He wanted that job last year. And it was so wild to see the photos then emerge of him vacationing there all the time in Chicago. He loves that town. It's a great fit for him. And he wanted a roster that had talent. And I think that he'll work well with Ryan Poles. I think that it might take time. I think that Ben Johnson now, yeah, I do think that, here's the thing too, that Dan Campbell said is that he put them through, and guys, I know that everybody's upset and they're looking at the Lions getting rated and it's not, what's up with Dan Campbell? What's up with this coaching staff? Dan Campbell groomed these two gentlemen to get jobs. All right. He literally told the media directly that they would have these meetings and they would go through all these scenarios. Now it's smart for Dan because now he also knows what Ben thinks. So I think it's sophisticated, but he went through scenarios and they would talk ball just like how we're talking and exploring. They would do the same thing in these game plan meetings. They would say, okay, this situation, what would you do? What kind of thoughts would you have? What play call would you run? So Dan he paid it forward. And that's what makes Dan one of the guys you can root for, is that he understood that, hey, there's talent there with Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn. They were going to be head coaches. And he put them in the spot to question, what would you do here? How would you align this? What would you try here? In a lot of different scenarios. So to me, if you question Ben Johnson, and I know, look, the competitor in me says F him, and I hope he flops. And yeah, of course. But Now, talking with my brain, he's going to shine because he comes from the Dan Campbell tree. And I can't speak highly enough of what Dan Campbell does as a head coach. And I think Aaron Glenn as well, even with the Jets, talk the talk, will walk the walk, but maybe not playoff bound in 24, 8, 9 wins, 10 wins, you get back up there. I don't think you're going to have, 10-game losing streaks with Ben Johnson. Number one thing is you're going to align with Caleb Williams. You get them moving, and you probably need one more running back to align with DeAndre Swift, a little bit more of a home run threat, and you got the pieces in place at wide receiver. So they'll win games, and they have the benefit of playing a last place schedule. That's a benefit, guys. Remember, they don't play the toughest of tough opponents in moving forward in 24. So that gives them a chance to have wins. Now, Aaron Glenn, that's tough, man. The AFC East is brutal, and you got quarterbacks galore to deal with. So I think it might take him a little bit longer to get settled, but when they do, if he takes Tanner Engstrand, a first-time coordinator, I think Steve Wilkes was a great hire. When they do, Aaron Glenn will bring the Jets a winner. And it just goes to show you, though, can they elevate to be world champion? My assessment would be Ben Johnson would have the first crack at a ring before Aaron Glenn.
And Doc, it pains me to ask you this question just because we're still technically in the NFL season, but the Lions, they have the 28th overall draft pick, and now we're kind of transitioning into off-season talk. Just your approach on that first-round pick. How do you think Brad Holmes should approach it as far as position goes, or do you think they should trade up, trade out? How do you think that first-round pick should be spent this year following this kind of collapse of a season in the divisional round?
Yeah, no, it's wild, man. And just to give my thoughts on it, I immediately, last week was a little bit lighter around Wednesday, Thursday last week. I think after we spoke, started turning on the college tape. It wasn't doing anything for me. I was like, this shit's boring me, man. I don't want to watch college tape. I just watched the college football playoff, just watched a whole season of NFL football, tape after tape, game after game. My mind was overloaded, but I'm going through, watching the tape, watching some of the thoughts and going through some of the ideas. And Christian did a mock draft at Lions on SI, and Daniel Jeremiah did one. And now it's like, just like that, we're at the draft now. And my mind was just like, man, I just wish the Senior Bowl was next week and give everybody a couple weeks off to just kind of decompress as your team gets eliminated. But I can't sit here and lie to you guys and say, hey, let's go get offensive linemen. To me, Brad could do anything. Brad, if he does his homework, he could get a wide receiver, he could get a running back, tight end, quarterback. You got to roll with it because they do their due diligence. But me, Doc, you got to find the best edge rusher. It's clear you drop the ball. Marcus Davenport, if directly Brad Holmes were to talk to me, I'd say, hey, you took a risk on Marcus Davenport, didn't work. James Houston, you tried to develop him, that didn't work. Those are negatives on your record. You got to get the edge rusher. You got to get the best. And actually, it was crazy. I was working out today, and I was just done, and I was thinking, okay, how would I frame this question to Brad Holmes? I say, look, I know your philosophy is just go get a Detroit Lion, somebody that's gritty, tough, football IQ, loves life, loves to play football, sleeps, eats, breathes football, good character, all that. But what harm would it do? What change could you adapt to say, hey, if you have good coaching, why not just take best available player at the position of need? Would that really hurt your rebuild? Because to me, as I was thinking, I'm like, everybody in the whole world knows, even Lucas, everybody, even the whole chat that's listening to me talk, they all know the biggest need for the Detroit Lions is edge rusher. Would it really hurt to rank them all and say, hey, this is the best guy that we can develop and get him? Because it's such a position of need. It ruined your season. It was awful. And it was, literally, we debated it. We screamed about it. You need an edge rusher. You need an edge rusher. You need to stop Jaden Daniels. You need to stop Jalen Hurts. You need to stop Caleb Williams. So to me, I don't think, maybe you guys can change my mind, but to me, I am going to scream from the highest of heavens. Let's start researching those edge rushers. And to see Mike Green destroy the guy in the rep today, that was awesome. to see Jack Sawyer start to emerge as a player, to see these defensive edges, defensive linemen, these defensive ends do their thing. I'm going to scream for 4 months. Bring an edge rusher to play opposite of Aiden. Because
edge to the D, Doc.
Address that position, you will fail again in the postseason, and it'll be worse.
Can you help us out with that? Edge to the D.
Rusher, edge. Everybody loves edges, right?
An edge to the D. Come on, Doc. We got to get that going here in Detroit. I need your help with that.
Edge to the D.
Edge to the D.
There you go. Go ahead, Klotz.
No,
okay, so no, I just asked Doc.
Oh,
yeah,
you did.
It's Jeff. It's Jeff.
Well, get lost in the loop there.
All right, let me ask you, Doc. You asked about the draft and what the Lions should do. I'll ask you about free agency because I saw something, and I don't know how true it is. We talked about it, but I don't want this to be like the narrative that we expect Zadarius Smith to be cut, but the Lions could save money doing it. Where are you at with Zadarius Smith's future? I feel like for the most part, more so people want him, but there's a crowd out there that's like, save the cash, go get someone else, or save it for other players. Where are you at with Zadarius's future?
Yeah, no, look, I think he's a locker room leader. I think he's got experience. I think he would work well with young players. It's tough at his age, and he kind of, I look at it like I would favor probably more him being cut. But I think either way, if he comes back next year, I know his loyalty. You see him posting all that stuff on social media. I think he's a great guy. I think he can bring something to the table. I don't think his cap number is terribly atrocious. So either way, it's going to be really up to the coaching staff. It's going to be interesting too because you recognize that he is under contract, so you can keep him. But I do think you can never have too many pass rushers. If they and also too, you also got to remember. Me sitting in there with Brad Holmes, he said that was the most complicated trade he ever put together. So that means he identified Zadarius Smith as being a fit. He identified that, hey, this is somebody that could add to our team. This is somebody we want to invest a draft pick in. Hey, let's go out there and make the trade. So would he be willing to cut him? I think that right now, 51-49 that he stays because of the fact they did so much work. And I think that he can bring something to the table in certain situations. And I just think that the mindset that he's got, I think he's one of those guys that, given an opportunity, could produce. But he's not your primary edge rusher. He's not your every down go-to defensive lineman. He's just not. He's got to be a role player. And I think he would handle that role just fine.
Hey, Doc, I do want to bring up just obviously in the offseason, we're talking draft, we're talking to Zadarius. There are a lot of guys that are free agents. Carlton Davis, Ifeanyi Melifonwu, and I can go on and on, Marcus Davenport. Hey, who do you think that I'll ask it this way. Who are a couple of those guys who you think that they do bring back, who you feel like is a lock? And number two, who are those guys that you feel like bigger names that they move on from? I think the people are kind of interested to get a kind of feel in the building. I know you've been around. I know it's off season now, but I'm sure you have a little bit of an idea potentially. But what are your thoughts on that? Yeah, no, free agency is going to be fun, right? March is right. It's coming up quick. I do think that Carlton Davis is the beneficiary of having a couple teams that are going to want to work with him. I definitely think that the Jets, they got DJ Reed. I was looking at their free agent list. He potentially could depart, so he could slide right in there with the Jets and work with Sauce Gardner. So I think that there's an opportunity there. It's going to be about dollars and cents. That's the thing, is that when you look at it, a lot of these guys fit. Like, I want Derek Barnes back. I want Carlton Davis back. I look at it and say Zeitler, I would be okay with moving on from. I think you have Mahogany and you can draft someone younger or go younger in free agency. So a lot of the free agents are interesting to talk about. The one, and with the free agents, it's going to come down to dollars. Like, Brad Holmes will not budge off of the number he feels is the best. Just like Steve Yzerman. They know the number. They're not going to overspend. They're going to work within the parameters, but I don't think they're going to try to outbid anybody. They'll give a fair offer. And I do think, though, the Lions are in the same boat, just like their coaches. Their players, when you win 15 games, that makes your players quite appealing. And there's a lot. And remember, as Brad Holmes is a good general manager that's responsible, well, there's a lot of bad general managers out there that want to just spend and just make that splash and win a press conference just to show that, hey, we won. We're trying. And the Jets probably might be one of them, to just try to get, some people in the building to understand Aaron Glenn's system and to build his message. So,
It's going to depend. I think that the toughest decisions will be Barnes and Davis, because I do think the Jets will come calling and make some offers seriously. But the others, I think that the Lions will put in some competitive offers for a lot of those free agents. But I do think that the two that are most challenging, that involve knowing what the offers will be Davis and Barnes. Now the question mark's going to be, do you bring back Tim Patrick? He was good, but you could also upgrade. You could make the splash. You could say, hey, let's go get a legit number 2-3 receiver out there, make a splash. But I do think he's consistent. He's valuable. At the same token, I'm curious to see what they think about Khalif Raymond. Does he end up staying on the roster? Some of the other guys as well. But Tim Patrick is a name to pay attention to, because he did okay. He started to emerge. And I think the name that you're seeing in the chat could be somebody special to bring in here too, to compete. But he's going to blow out he's going to demand a super high price, and I think he's still going to stay with the Bengals. T. Higgins is somebody that I've had on my fantasy team. You always know that he's the boss, and he could play great. He'd make Jared look great as well, but I think he stays with the Bengals.
Do you think J-Mo gets an extension, Doc?
Now, I'm going to play hardball here. I go Aiden, no doubt about it. You know that you hope that clearly he returns. I play hardball, and I go big money contract to Hutch, and I go 5th-year option for J-Mo and just make him earn it one more year. Because remember, he just had that now 1 year of the 1,000 yards. You have seen mistakes. I am not ready yet still to give him 4 years, $80 million for his services. I want him just to stay under the first-year contract and the 5th year, and let him earn it one more time. And let's see if he can put together 17 strong games in one season, no distractions. And then in the postseason, when it's a run-pass option, you run that football. I don't care if your wide receiver is wide-ass open. You use that speed. Your money's in your speed, not in your arm. I don't care if you get yelled at by the coaches. I don't care if Amon-Ra's 15 yards free. You're Jamison Williams. You run that ball, and you take the tongue lashing from the coaching staff. You use that speed because nobody can catch you.
Hey, Doc. I agree with you with J-Mo. We kind of got in a debate about that. But when you look ahead, you want J-Mo to produce next year. Obviously, that'd be good for the Lions offense. Lions offense was great this year, won the division. Do you think that this Lions team as a whole is going to repeat and win the division? And kind of like a two-part question off of that. If they lose it and they're not the NFC North champions, do you think that there's a chance that the Bears are the worst to first team going into next year?
Yeah, you look at it, your chat's bringing a lot of smart comments today. I'm really proud of them that they brought their A game. Look, it's a good problem to have, Tyler. If J-Mo balls out and it's going to cost you $30 million, that means he's got like 1,200 yards, 125 catches, and 15 touchdowns. And that's what I hinted at to Ben Johnson in one of his last pressers. I said, how do you get him now to be the number one wide receiver, like truly like Justin Jefferson style? And he said, another offseason, developing, working, no distractions. So that's a good problem to have. If he's earned $30 million a year, if it's not with the Lions, hey, you make a decision, guys. Okay, remember too. I love and the one thing that's fair and fun, and the reason why Lions NSI writes a lot of stories about former Lions and former coaches and former Lions across the league, you guys are very loyal to the athletes at hand. And I respect that. And sometimes that gets you guys mad at me because I am not that way. I am the general manager running Lions on SI. So I look at it just like a general, and that's what I hope you guys recognize. I view players as being kind of dispensable. So I love the players. I respect them greatly, but I come at it from the perspective of if I can find similar production cheaper, I love to do that. I run it like a general manager's mind. So guys, the position that is stocked full of talent year in, year out is wide receiver. You could find the next J-Mo. Maybe not as fast, maybe not as explosive, but the wide receiver pool is deep and deeper. These dudes are flying. You can find another J-Mo. So I wouldn't care if he left somewhere else. It would be just fine. You could find somebody else and or just wait for Jeremiah Smith one more year and or figure out whenever he's eligible, get him and you'll be just fine. Or just, hey, Ohio State, tell me the guys you're recruiting. Okay, fine. We'll wait for them. Just keep plucking them. one after another. They just are a wide receiver factory. So guys, remember that certain players, when they leave, Brad Holmes will restock them with great players. What we're talking about is next level is, can the Lions, when they get to the postseason, I'll bring it up, are they the next Bills? Are they the Detroit Bills? They just get there every year and never advance. That's the part we got to get to, is what's that fine line of getting to the postseason and advancing. And a lot of people will say quarterback. I say ride Jahmyr Gibbs, but I do think the Lions are going to be competing strong for the division. You know how much emphasis Brad and Dan put on winning division games. They just went 6-0 in the toughest division ever assembled. They won every game. Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen again, but I think they'll be competing strong. I think the Bears will be better. I do think maybe the Vikings could take a step back. So I would rank it right now. I would rank it the Lions, the Bears, the Packers, and the Vikings. And the Packers have to show that they can play well special teams wise and execute, and Jordan Love bring down those turnovers. But to me, the Lions are the class of the division, and the Bears are moving up. I don't see them going worst to first. I see them competing, winning a lot of games. But the Detroit Lions, until someone knocks them off, until I see a roster that gives me a lot of question marks, you have two needs: left guard and edge rusher, and some depth. But remember, we could spend 2 hours talking about how great Branch is going to get better. He's going to look to kind of improve on that second half that kind of dipped a little bit. Kirby Joseph could have easily 10 interceptions. You got a lot of good things. You expect a big jump from Terrion Arnold and Jack Campbell. Alex Anzalone, I think, is great where he's at. So you got a lot of pieces. But where you got to kind of tinker is maybe the interior of the defensive line and a couple of depth spots along the offensive line. But I know we're still raw after them losing, but guess what? It's hype season, and I can lead the hype train, no doubt about it. There's a lot of good reasons to celebrate the Detroit Lions. Where we get the part where we're going to get into the nitty-gritty is, can this football team advance 4 games if needed to win a Super Bowl? God, it's tough. And Dan put it out there. It's tough. I don't think my little heart can handle what's going on with the Bills. Like I told my cousin today on the podcast, our 600th Doc and Jock. I said today, man, can we handle sustained success but not winning? What does that do to the dynamic with Dan? What does that do? Like, can we handle division loss, NFC title loss? Can you remember, guys, not too in the distant past, the Eagles with Andy Reid always getting to the NFC Championship, falling short. Andy Reid leaves the Eagles and has this epic run with the Chiefs. I don't want that storyline with the Lions, but it's closer to that than thinking that the Lions are Super Bowl caliber, because the AFC is sick. The NFC is getting stronger. So where we're going to debate over the next year is, how do these Lions get over the hump to win a Super Bowl when the wizard in the AFC is getting all the calls and has all the refs in his pocket with the Kansas City Chiefs and the best coaching staff ever assembled in the history of coaching, with Matt Nagy and Spagnuolo and Andy Reid? That trio together is just effing amazing. My God, that many times in the Super Bowl, going for a chance for a three-peat. But just doing the early research, I'm kind of leaning toward the Eagles, but the magic of the Chiefs is just sick because of Mahomes. But no, Bears, guys, calm down. Don't get bricked up about the Bears. Get bricked up about the Lions. The Lions.
Well, Doc, let me go to the chat because we got some questions here that I think are great questions. We'll start with Marco, Scratch Golf Show. He says, can you ask Doc if he thinks Brunell's leaving for New York too? Because he was rumored first, Doc, Mark Brunell.
Yeah, I think they have a close relationship with and here's the tough part too. A lot of times too, there's a lot of that posturing where the agents will take opportunities to hear other offers so that you get more money with your own team. If you ask me, I think that Mark Brunell stays in Detroit. I think he's firmly entrenched with Goff. Goff is very loyal. Goff is a guy that likes things particular. I think that Mark Brunell definitely is somebody that he works with and connects with at a deeper level. But a name that to pay attention to is, I can't believe how fast David Blau is working through the coaching ranks 1 year in Washington, and he's getting opportunities with the Bears, Jaguars, Jets. So I would look at that. You look at the best talent possible. Why not bring him in if Engstrand leaves? Maybe you hold off. You tell David, hold off a little bit. If Engstrand leaves, you make David Blau the passing game coordinator. He's one of those guys that maybe not the most talent on the field, but his brain, his offensive propensity is off the charts. He's very smart. Guys from Purdue definitely understand how to handle things, and he knows the Detroit Lions. He would be a perfect addition to this offense if Tanner does leave. But if you ask me, I do not believe Mark Brunell is leaving for the Jets.
We have two couple more questions. Josh asked, John, any thoughts on who will be the next wide receiver coach?
Yeah, I think somebody that's been on the staff, I think they elevate Seth Ryan. I think JMO, when I asked him what the impact was of Randall L. and Seth Ryan, he said Seth Ryan helped him so much with route running. And the wild story about that is I met Seth in Kansas City, and it was so unusual that he didn't recognize me and I didn't recognize him. So we were in Kansas City, and my wife is taking photos, and we're posing in Kansas City and all that. And all of a sudden, Coach Ryan and his wife are there, and his wife is so sweet. She's like, "Oh, do you guys want a picture together?" And I'm like, "Yeah, no problem." So she's taking our photo. He's standing there, and we're starting to talk. And he's like, and I think both of us were like, kind of just in the moment, not like really listening or focusing, because he asked me, "What do you do?" I said, "I cover sports. I cover the Lions." He's like, "Okay." And I'm like, "What do you do?" He's like, "Well, I'm a coach." And I'm like, "Okay." In the NFL, I cover I work for the Lions. And then we're like nodding and just kind of talking. I'm like, "Wait a minute. Oh, you're Seth Ryan of the Lions." I'm like, "Oh, I cover the team." He's like, "Oh, okay." And then we kind of figured it out that, "Oh, okay, you work for the Lions and I cover the Lions." And we're like, we chatted it up a little bit. And the first thing I asked him, he basically predicted the Chiefs win. I said, "Y'all ready?" He's like, "Watch out. This receiving corps is ready." And they went out and won the game. So that was a small little gathering I had with Seth Ryan, because I think those guys, the assistant wide receiver coach, they talk maybe once a year. So I do think he's great for the job. I think that the players would connect with him. Randall L is going to be a loss. I think that he definitely helped JMO develop in St. Brown. But Seth Ryan, I think the son of Rex Ryan, I think he'll firmly plant his feet in the ground and handle business.
Let's see. We got the Wheezy Diaz asked Doc, "Are you willing to move off of Reader and throw Broderick into the Wolves?"
Jesus.
To the Wolves.
Oh, now that's the other part too. is I can tell you kind of the schedule. Kind of the end of the month, I've done pretty much well. So we're kind of waiting until February to fire it all up, where we go back and look at the old stuff. But just by and large, Reader could have had a little bit more of an impact. I thought he had a good year, but I don't think Broderick's ready to where you say move off of Reader. I think that DJ Reader is a solid contributor, could do better, but I think that his year, he was out there, he was available, and the Lions were pretty stout against the run. So Broderick, his goal will be to continue to develop. And there is a question mark regarding, Casey Rogers and the consistency along the defensive line. They keep working through coaches there. I would say the guy that's going to play more probably will be Mekhi Wingo. He'll get more of an opportunity. I think that the coaching staff loves him. Terrell Williams loved him. You want to make sure that Aleem McNeil gets back healthy. But am I willing to move off a Reader? No. DJ Reader is a class act. I think that he's a great football player. Definitely another year in the system. A veteran presence will help out. I think he's great with the media. He never turned down a request. He was actually, very rare that a player will compliment the media. But he complimented me and was like, "Hey, congrats on coming here all the time." And he was a nice guy. And even when they lost, stand-up individual. You don't see that too often. When bad losses happen, players just run out as fast as humanly possible. They don't want to stand in and take the tough questions. DJ Reader earned my respect tremendously. Stood there, answered the questions, just said, "Hey, it stings. It happens in the NFL. You move forward." He handled it like a pro. And I think that you can't have too many guys that are good in the community, solid football players, guys that can mentor young people. And I think that you value the mentorship of DJ Reader. And I think you'll get more out of him. You for sure can get some solid run stuffing from DJ Reader. So at this point in time, as we talk, my answer is no.
Hey, Doc, I just want to add real quick. I got a question here for you. Around the league, a little around the NFL action, thoughts on the coaching hirings, the head coaching ones. Who do you think is going to be the best, the worst, all of that? Because there was, I think, what is it, 6 or 7 that got filled out. What are your thoughts? I know we've already heard you about the Jets and the Bears, but all the other ones, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, the Saints is a shit show, the way they operate. The Jaguars is a shit show as well, where, they get the right guy. I'm curious about Liam Cohen, but the way he handled business was a little bit unusual in regards to not communicating deeply with the team that would employ him. That's I think that he'll have an opportunity to develop Trevor Lawrence. Dallas is crazy. It's one of those deals where when everybody hates on your pick and goes, Brian Schottenheimer, why? It just kind of makes me say, hey, maybe he'll go out there and do something, but it's never good when your perception from everybody is you're Jerry Jones' puppet. And maybe they can find the glory hole of success that they need to figure it out or whatever it is that they're trying to talk about publicly. But Jerry Jones is not qualified to run that team, and they're far, far away. So to me, Schottenheimer is going to flop. And I think that if you're Dallas, why wouldn't you not go after Ben Johnson? At least go after someone bigger. So I'm not certain about that. Bears, Jets. What are some of the other openings as well? They're not coming to mind.
Raiders.
Yep. Patriots.
Vrabel will have success. That's, Vrabel, Glenn, their formula's there. You see the formula. Hey, former players that connect with players. The Raiders are so off the radar. They just kind of recycle guys. Pete Carroll's more of a culture guy. I like what he's going to do with the culture, but he's over the age of 70. And in the end, in football, coaching matters. It's very important, but what sets you up for success preliminarily is who's that quarterback. So Drake May really is going to set up. It's going to set up Mike Vrabel for success. Trevor Lawrence with good coaching will put a lot of people in good spots as long as you really understand making sure that you develop Trevor Lawrence in the manner in which you're able to. So if you get the same success that Baker Mayfield had, even though they had injuries with the Bucs, I like the Jaguars, but in a couple years, I think you can put like kind of tiers. The teams that are going to take more time, not instantly, will be the Raiders, the Saints, the Cowboys, and the Jets, because they got to figure out their quarterback spot. The teams better suited, I think, are going to be the Bears and the Jaguars. Maybe just an opportunity because they have more established quarterbacks.
Can we, Doc? The people want it. Can we get a
Duval
out of you?
Well, the funny part is that the mustache is growing, so I gotta just continue to kind of handle it a little bit more. Shad Khan and Tony Khan, who runs AEW, they run it over there. But things in Duval got to be a lot better because they are a shit show, and they're known for mismanagement and kind of the way they do things is ass backwards. But they got their guy. It's just I don't think that I like Doug Peterson, but man, they moved down pretty quickly, and that was a fall off from grace that I didn't expect. I like Coach Peterson. I like what he's got, but they got some talent there.
There's 2 more questions from the people here. Night Owl 1978 says, who are Doc's favorite edge prospects from this draft? I saw you tweeting a little bit about Mike Green. I saw you.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Yeah, the edge prospects are solid. I look at it and I say Mike Green puts out great tape. I saw, Jack, you look at it from the perspective of winners. Jack Sawyer saw that Michigan was a football team that planted the flag in their situation, in their own building, and they went out and won. That's grit. That's interesting. That intrigues me. So early on, those 2 names, a name to pay attention to is edge rusher James Pierce from Tennessee. A lot of teams are getting mocked to the Eagles or the Chiefs at 31, 32. He could be somebody that's interesting. There's another name too that just jumped off the charts that was unbelievable as well in regards to his size. 6'6", 300-pounder Shamar Stewart stood out to me as well. I think that any of those guys, listen, that's what I can't wait to see the combine. I'm going to the combine. It's going to be great. I'm going to go out there and figure it out. Going to talk to
there too, Doc.
And the timing is perfect for me.
We'll see you there, Doc.
Yeah, you guys are going?
We already got a hotel,
Come on
but
now.
we everything's booked. We were there last year. We're going this year. We've got a lot of things happening at the combine for the boys.
Oh, we can have a combine chat. Maybe we got to link up.
We
Now,
will be live for some times too, so you have to stop by.
okay. Are you gonna be there Monday night?
No, we'll be there Thursday through Sunday.
Oh, you guys are going. So we're doing the opposite. So for media, what works for me is, and you guys did that last year. You guys went last year. I know that.
Yep.
I think we started to connect last year, knowing you guys. Did you guys do it last year?
Yeah.
Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah. Okay. So it's good. No, what I'm doing is I'm getting there Monday afternoon, and then we believe that tentatively the Lions may talk Tuesday or Wednesday, and so it works perfectly to talk to the coaches and general managers, and then Wednesday morning all the edge rushers will talk. So that works out perfectly where I'm going to get all the media stuff and then get back home and sit down on the couch and just follow you guys and watch the film and do the reports there. So it works out perfectly for media for me to go in the early part of the week, get all the info, talk to the players, talk to the coaches, and probably talk to Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson and get all the newsy stuff that I got to do. And then I'll let you guys and Christian do all the scouting. I love the scouting. It's great. I love your guys' questions. We're all in the early phase of looking at the tape. But for me, my role will be the salary cap, free agency, looking at which team, recapping the Lions. So that's my stuff. Christian is the draft guy who loves the tape and is like, hey, look at this guy, look at that guy. But I will throw this out there. What do you guys think? Do you want to be bold? I mean, clearly in all the mock drafts, as I'm scrolling up here, do you kind of move up and look at an Abdul Carter? Do you go up and try to trade for a Mason Graham? Do you take a splash and say, hey, let's be aggressive and get the best one? Most people rank Mikael Williams from Georgia. Dan and Brad love those guys from the SEC. A lot of people like his athleticism. Mikael Williams definitely jumps off on the tape here on my list. So that'll be something fun to talk about is, do the Lions end up staying at 28? Do they package some picks to move up? They have moved up before. I'm all about one of those. I'm all about, listen, I know you guys are like, you can't get this guy. Brad can do whatever he wants. If there's a guy that they like and they love, who's to say they won't do it? Who's to say why not? But yeah, of course, the odds are long and we all see the mock drafts and where they're going, but stuff happens. Little thing here, little thing there. He falls, rumors, blah, blah, blah. It'll be interesting to see, but that's the talk, man. Get the best edge prospect in here and figure it out because, man, if Aiden stayed healthy and you had Davenport healthy, you might have been able to stop Jaden Daniels.
Last question here. JJE says, do the Lions make a run at Darius Slay to come play for a year if they can't re-sign Carlton?
Yeah, I think that Darius Slay, you got the better version of him, younger and cheaper in Amik Robertson. So I like Darius Slay, but I would value Carlton Davis, younger, more athletic, taller, man-to-man coverage. Darius is great, but he's a little bit longer in the tooth. It's going to depend on what kind of money he's going to look for. So I would say the Lions could inquire, but I would be surprised if he comes back to Detroit. I would think that you would probably value Carlton Davis a little bit more than Darius Slay.
Well, we appreciate you, Doc, as always. Keep up the great work. We'll find a way at some point we can link up with the combine at some point in both of our careers. We'll make it happen. I want to watch some ball with the Doc.
Well, next year maybe we're going the full week. I didn't even know they did stuff Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So maybe
we can still we'll talk that week of the combine from the hotel room that Wednesday. Maybe call in or whatever. We'll figure out how to have fun with the combine, and anything you guys need, we'll make it happen. Now, real fast, my last 60 seconds.
Yeah,
I do want to complain.
Okay,
what's on your mind?
And all of Detroit sports, you guys were all bricked up over seeing a shirtless Dan Campbell. So I did some research. I said, all right, y'all got bricked up seeing Dan with his lady. I said, okay, now you're going to put the Doc in a tough position. I'm not really bricked up over a shirtless Dan Campbell. So now I got to look at his wife. I said, I can't do that. I mean, I got to be respectful. So I said, okay, why is everybody posting this? So, okay, you guys and everybody that posted the shirtless Dan Campbell, let's have some class and say the first post when you guys go to Holly Campbell's page and stalker. It's his 26-year anniversary. Congrats, man. Yeah, nobody shared the real information here.
Doc, I don't like this. I don't like this take from you. I have a problem with it.
Dan Campbell,
great picture.
26 years. Congratulations.
Great.
I wanted to post the first photo and not the second one. I don't need to see a shirtless Dan Campbell. I'm a guy. I don't like that.
Well, there may be girls that follow us too, Doc. We do not discriminate. We post for everyone. That was a great picture of Dan Campbell. A great throwback picture of Dan Campbell. Hey, our job. Hey, what does Pat McAfee say? Hashtag journalistic integrity. We post everything, Doc. You have to. Shirt off, shirt on, doesn't matter. It gets posted, Doc.
Okay. Yeah. It got posted by 15 accounts. I'm like, who was the first? I don't want to be seeing that. I want to be seeing a whole bunch of other stuff. So I'm giving you a review as a guy who's a consumer of sports. I was not a fan of that particular post, knowing that potentially there was even more better information that you could have shared that was more positive and more unique, Doc. And a little bit less. Like
215,000 people were a fan of that post. So
of your 200 people that saw that or whatever.
215,000.
That's how many people saw that?
215,000 views.
Hey, Boone posted a thirst trap, Doc.
Hey,
he couldn't help himself.
People love Dan Campbell. The people.
I can't argue that. I can't argue that. The ladies, the people like Dan Campbell.
Go post it after this now.
He's a legend. Dan's a legend. I'm going to say that. But you could have then also said, hey, congrats. The missus and him have been together for a long time. Boys, you guys are doing great work. It's a tough time, but it's a fun time as well. Football never ends, man.
Hey, Doc, you know I love you. That was a fun time. I love
that was fun. I didn't even look at the numbers. Damn, 200,000. Maybe I got to start spending time stocking out Campbell's dinner. I don't need to. I'll let you guys do. I'll let the young kids do all that. I just share my opinion as I see it. I'm like, what the fuck? I don't want to see Dan shirtless.
The man is shirtless. He has who's the guy? Fabio or whatever. He has his hair and he's got a cigarette hanging out of his mouth. He has a dart hanging out of his mouth. Doc, you know what? You do an amazing job, Doc. 100%. You're my favorite follower in Detroit. That was a miss on you not posting that today.
That's the one thing. That's the only thing. I had my fill of that. I told you guys I don't search social media for reposting what other people already post. I'm just posting Lions information right to the people. So make sure you follow guys at Detroit Podcast. And thank you humbly. I set big goals for myself this year. And one of them was crushing video numbers, putting out information that people liked, making sure that people valued the time that they spend at Detroit Podcast. They do. And then tomorrow is a humbling day, 600th episode. The 600th episode of Doc and Jock comes out. Wow, it started in September of 2013, and it's made my life tremendously better. My cousin Adam Straczynski is a legend for co-hosting with me for 12 years, nonstop for 12 years, podcasting and to interact with you guys, to talk. I get genuinely excited. I get bricked up to get up here and talk shit. Ooh. Now, you got 1 week. All right, whoever's doing your emotes, get mine up there by the combine, because if it's not up there, I'm going to no-show you. So you got 1 week, administrator. I gave you 2 weeks. I'm nice. But now you're on the clock. My pretty face, I'm breaking the news. I'm going to get an emote, guys. I'm going to make it happen. I don't care. Put my face on there so when I say something stupid, these people can react.
I don't hate it.
Next week, you got 7 days, administrator. Get off your ass and do something.
Interest goes up every day after.
Understood. Wow. That's John Maakaron, the one, the only.
Hey, he doesn't just run the Detroit Podcast. The man runs Crunch Time Sports.
Yeah, no, he's a what a legend. As always, brought to you guys by BetUS. I listen to Doc when he's going. He had a lot of opinions today. He's on a roll. He was on a roll. He's calling us out. Accountability. It's important. It's important to Doc.
To be fair,
I got to get him those emotes, man.
I did shut him down pretty quick on the Dan Campbell photo. He said I have a bone to pick, and I shut that down with the 200,000. He said 2,000. He said 2,000. No, 200,000, Doc.
Hey, Jesus Walk gave us $2 during, and I appreciate you for that. Thank you so much, man. He gave it to us while Doc was talking, so I couldn't bring it up then. He said, "Why you let Ben Johnson walk?" Well,
he's walking with you now, Jesus.
You extend Judas for another year, Jesus.
He's in that picture. Jesus is walking in that picture.
Ben
Johnson's right next to him.
Ben Johnson is Judas.
I don't know what that means, dude. Honestly,
it's not good.
Oh,
it's not good. Yeah. If you got questions, drop them. I wanted
to mailbag, baby. Let's go.
At least mention the. I mean, can we at least talk about a little bit about the Pro Bowl stuff? Like how ridiculous this is. But you know what? You know what's like is the reality of it though is when Drake May's career is done, they're gonna see one extra Pro Bowl.
There is a point though.
So dumb.
Russell Wilson.
There's a point. Yeah, but Russ actually played a full season. Like Drake May didn't even play a full season. There is a point to where I think now when you look at some guys in their Pro Bowls, you're not going to take it seriously. That's why All Pro is pretty meaningful. So I really
that's how it should be. That's how it should be.
Yeah, I think it's over at that point. I'm very far off the whole Pro Bowl thing. I honestly I'll probably watch it. Like I people might think it's dumb. Like I don't mind watching some of like the competitions. Like Jared Goff's going to be doing the throwing competition. They have like I don't know. They have a bunch of different ones. Like Frank Ragnow's in a bunch of them. Jack Fox is doing a punting competition. Like even back in the day, I used to watch all the competitions. So I'll watch that. I just really don't care for the actual flag football game part of it. Like, I think that's ridiculous. Yeah. It's the same thing with the NBA. Like, honestly, and I tweeted this out today, boys. I don't know if you guys saw it. Like, the NBA, they switched their all-star game. Like, I think the NBA had the best all-star game. I think the Pro Bowl was really good in Hawaii, but I think the NBA for the longest, East versus West, was so good. Like the red versus blue. And it was like that forever. It was like, and then before, back in the day, you had the jersey, like the iconic Jordan jersey, all-star jerseys, like all of that. But like, it was always just East, West, even whatever conference was better, they just played it. And it's like, you keep that stuff the same. Now they're trying to switch it. Now there's 3 all-star teams in the NBA. Like just keep the things the same. Quit trying to change things and ruin it. Klotz and I do that all the time. Today, this is what I tweeted out today. I get an alert that comes across my desk. Adam Silver trying to change the quarters from 12 to 10, and he thinks he's ruining the NBA. The NBA is done. I honestly, you guys know me. Basketball is my number one love. I outside of the Pistons, I don't watch any NBA anymore. I truly don't. It's like Adam Silver legit has ruined it based off of just wanting to bring money in, trying to make the game better when it was already really good and the ratings were very good, trying to make them even better. It was like, dude, if you kept it the same, there's no point. Like, I only watch the Pistons. Like, I turn on TNT. I watch it for the pregame and the postgame. I turn the game off during. I'll turn on a video game and play with you guys, or I'll turn on, I don't know, I'll turn on draft highlights to watch some players. Like, I'm just over the NBA, and like Adam Silver needs to be out of there tomorrow. Like, he is such a bad. I thought he was good a couple years ago. The last 4 years, he has ruined his job trying to make all these changes.
Hey, it's not just the All-Star. It's Christmas. Remember Chris? I used to watch the NBA.
Christmas, yes. Yeah. Don't watch that anymore.
I don't watch
the in-season tournament. Like, people loved it. I hate the in-season. Just play basketball. 82 games. Play ball. These guys need to man up. Quit being soft and not playing.
Ron ruined it.
Yeah, like the game needs to get back to what it was. Quit trying to change the rules for this and that. Like, Adam Silver needs to be out as commissioner. I think that like fan base should like, I don't know, maybe we go to the place and we protest. Get some signs and go protest, dude. Because I'm tired. I'm so tired. When I saw that today, some people were actually commenting trying to stick up for it. I was like, there's no room for you to go from 12 minutes to 10 minutes. Like, he's like the college does it. Everywhere around the world does it. That's why it's the NBA. Because it's 48 minutes. You have to be
endurance.
The next level.
Yeah.
You're trying to. Oh, I'm so mad. I'm sorry. That really frustrates
me. It sounds like it's correcting a little bit. Like that, part of turning the quarters to 10 is like, too many points are being scored. Let's knock off, 8 minutes in a game. It's like, dude, just leave it alone. There's other problems for the NBA. It sucks.
I generally like
fucking restricted. If the NBA, if the players would just truly play, and like I understand 82 games is a hard stretch of games, but to your point, Booner, like all these players grew up watching 82 games, and now they're just not playing in half of them. It seems like, dude. And like if you turned on like a couple years ago, if you turned on a Cavs and a Bucks game, like it might have not been the best, but all 5 starters are out there if they're not hurt, and they're playing. Like, we're seeing guys who are being undrafted and they're starting in the starting 5 for one night and then they're being pulled. And it's like obviously it's not that everywhere, but it's just like you watch it. It's just like there's no consistency to the game at all. No one gives a fuck. Like, they're getting paid way too much to sit around. I mean, Kawhi Leonard, about to get repaid and signed to a bag for what? Joel Embiid for what? It's just like the all-stars and the guys that carry the league are just soft. Like
what's crazy, guys, is they're playing 82 games just like the guys in the 90s, early 2000s. You have the technology and more science now to be able to heal, to be able to go through injuries and play and like figure that out. And guess what? The guys in today's NBA are the ones that are complaining and not playing. When back in the day, you didn't have all of the technology and everything you had to keep playing. You just had to play and you had to push through it. And they did it without even questioning it. And now it's like, hey, now that you have all these different new tech, like that's what it really bothers me. I genuinely like. I wish I could sit down with Adam Silver and say how bad of a commissioner he is.
What about this one? ETN Bald on Lice says Mailbag. Which team has the best shot at going from worst to first in their division?
Worst to first. Let me see. Oh, I think that's easy. I think it should be the same. I think we all should have the same answer. It's the 49ers.
No, yeah, that's a
yeah,
clean answer, Boone. Clean.
Yeah, I mean, if you had to bet it, and that's why I think that's why that's just usually every year there's one team that does it. I think there's always like a team like the 49ers who are supposed to be playoff team and they end up being lower in their division. Like it's not going to be the Patriots. It won't be the Browns. Jags didn't finish last. The Titans did. Raiders, no. The Giants, no. The Bears,
what's the next
no.
best besides
the Saints,
the 49ers?
no. I don't know.
I feel like it's a humongous drop off after that. But like, who would those?
I mean, literally, the next best is probably the Browns, and they're not doing
I'd say Browns probably.
They're going to get worse. They're 3-14. I don't know. I don't see a future for them.
Maybe the Patriots somehow, some
the
way.
Saints, for as bad as their division is.
Nope.
I don't know. I'm just throwing stuff out there. Worst, it's probably the 49ers.
Ryan, give me the Jags. The Duval. Yeah. Shift God says Mailbag. Which team will Kirk Cousins scam next?
That's a good question. Imagine if he goes to the Jets with AG.
Yeah.
AG's not that dumb. AG had to play against him, coach against him for long enough. It'll be the Raiders probably. Maybe the Browns.
Yeah, you see the Russell Wilson going to the Raiders? You see that whole thing?
Yeah, I did. I don't think Russ is as bad as people put. He is getting older, but
he's a good bridge guy right now.
He's
if you throw him in Vegas, they will win, 7, 8 games. I'm sure.
Yeah,
they'll have a chance down the stretch. Yeah, they'll have a chance down the stretch to make a playoff run, I'm sure, with Pete Carroll. But that's about it. They have weapons too. I mean, they're not as bad as people think.
Brock Bowers,
Trey Tucker, Jacoby Myers.
Who's their running back? Oh, it's the guy that you had me draft.
Amir Abdullah, Zamir White, Alexander Madison.
Zamir White, what a bum.
You know what I saw, Klotzy? Your boy McMillan.
Jalen
might end up.
Jalen McMillan.
Is that what's his name?
Tetaroa.
Yeah. He might end up with the Panthers with your guy Bryce Young, dude.
And Xavier Legette. Oh. Duo would feed
your
families.
Narrative, like you might as well just have a side team. I mean, that's ridiculous.
When did the Giants pick?
They picked top 3. I think they picked 3.
Yeah, no, can't do that.
They need to draft a quarterback though, right?
Yeah.
If I'm the Giants, I'm taking an offensive tackle. I'm not selling my franchise on.
I actually heard
Sanders
Giants fan Mike Valeni today said he said no matter what, Mason Graham. He said put Mason Graham next to Dexter Lawrence. You'll figure out the quarterback situation later. But he was defensively, you'll never stop Mason Graham and Dexter Lawrence. And I was like,
it's not going to matter if you're scoring 7 points a game,
dude. So Mason Graham and Dexter Lawrence
going to fix that?
Dude, they brought them back this year when everyone expected them to get fired. Joe Sheen is going out with a bang. Like this dude's taking a quarterback. If he takes Mason Graham and they go 4-13, he's fired. He's done. So it's like, at least take a guy that could possibly save your job.
I don't know.
Why would they take Mason Graham? He's about to get fired. He's like, boy, I took Mason Graham. It's
listen, that's a Giants fan that said it, not me. Listen, I'm
talking. I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to Valeni.
Look at right in your eyes in the camera and say, I'm talking to you, Mike Valeni.
I'm talking to you, Mike Valeni. Okay, that take to me is dumb. Why would they not take a quarterback? That doesn't, especially it's not about whether it's right or wrong. It's about what Sheen. Is that how you pronounce his last name? Joe
Correct.
Sheen.
He should have been fired.
Whatever he
this
wants
year.
to do, which I know it's going to be take a quarterback, dude. Unless the Browns say, you know what, we're taking a quarterback.
The Browns probably will take a quarterback.
That's the thing. Then the Giants have no choice at that point, unless they take Jackson Dart at 3.
Shedeur Sanders will be a Cleveland Brown.
The Titans like him too.
Look, I don't really have much faith in Cam Ward being like very good, like an elite quarterback in the NFL. I think he could possibly be good, but I think there's a drop off between Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders. Like I do. I don't think Shedeur Sanders is going to work in the NFL unless
I'm interested. Honestly,
Shanahan scheme.
I don't know. I'm interested. This is, I think, to me, over the last few years, like the biggest question mark of a quarterback class that we've seen. I don't know. I think Cam Ward is fine. I think Shedeur has a chance to be good.
I think the type of guy Brian Callahan wants is someone that's more pocket driven. They stand in the pocket, make throws. Like I know Cam Ward does that, but Shedeur is like, he's probably the best at that. Just making throws.
He does have an arm. The thing is with Shedeur is he does have an absolute.
Don't count it out, Klotz. I'm not saying
he has an arm, Klotz.
He doesn't have a great arm though. Like he has a good arm, but he has that same thing with Cam Ward. Like both these guys, they're literally identical to each other. Cam Ward just a little bit bigger and had more success.
That's where it's. I think maybe Shedeur's a little bit more raw. That's maybe how I think
Cam
about
Ward
it.
has more like wow factor.
And I do think sometimes a raw quarterback in the NFL. Maybe this is just me in my mind. When you get to a certain place, if you get to the right spot, a good coach or a good OC can build you into how he wants to use you. If you're raw like that, and I think with Shedeur, it's a big if he gets put in the right spot. I do think there's an OC or an offensive-minded coach that can take Shedeur and make him something great. I do think that. Now, that's the if to where it's like there's a reason some of these teams are picking the top 5. It's because they don't have those ifs. You know, they don't have them.
Like any reasonable GM, like if you're a first-year GM and like maybe you don't need like I'm taking Abdul Carter over both of those.
Yeah, Abdul dude is a beast.
I think he goes 1-1. And honestly, I wonder what the bet is for that. Who's number 1 overall pick?
Tennessee.
Yeah, you take Abdul. You take him.
Yeah,
right?
you take it.
No.
Yeah.
Trust me. Brian,
you're not winning any games with Cam Ward. You're one like Cam Ward's not.
So you're gonna. What are you gonna? Okay, I understand.
Keep going with Will Levis. To be honest,
think of the Titans. You were you have the number 1 overall pick.
Yeah, you'll be back there next year.
Yeah, I agree.
Again, but you're talking about the future. What's potentially at quarterback? What could be there?
Plus 240, Abdul Carter.
No, he's going to go top 3, so he's
Number
probably going to have
overall.
decent odds for all those. I mean, he's in that range. The top 3 picks will probably be Cam, Shedeur, and Abdul. It'll be those 3.
Cam Ward plus 100 to go number 1 overall. Travis Hunter plus 220. Abdul Carter plus 240. I actually heard something the other day where the Titans came out and they said you can't pass up generational talent. And that's obviously not Cam Ward, and that's obviously not Shedeur Sanders. That's either Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter. It's one of the two. Those are the only 2 guys. And I think who was it that said it? Someone in the chat might have heard the same video I did, but someone was like, I think it might have been Shefty. I think Shefty was like, that was the one thing the Patriots didn't want to hear, because the Patriots want Travis Hunter because they have their quarterback. They want a guy like Travis Hunter who's a generational guy. And they thought that the Tennessee Titans were going to go quarterback, but the Titans come out and go, hey, we want a generational. We're not passing up on generational talent. And that's when Shefty was like, that was the last thing that Patriots organization wants to hear. They want their pick of Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter.
Take one of those guys, sign Justin Fields, sign who's the other one that I was looking at? Sign Russell Wilson, sign one of the Pittsburgh quarterbacks, ride it out
or Cousins.
Take a quarterback next year.
Yeah, I don't hate that. If I'm the Patriots too, they're sitting at number 2, right? They're sitting in a great spot.
No, Patriots are no, Browns are. I'm pretty sure.
Patriots hold on, but I can tell you in 2 seconds. Patriots are 4th.
Oh, never mind.
Giants
I thought they were 2.
Browns are 2nd. Titans are 1st.
Man, Patriots just have to sit there. And if I'm them, honestly, I'm trading up. I'm going up to get Abdul or Travis Hunter.
Yeah.
Or you could stay put and probably get Mason Graham.
Yeah. No, I mean, if I'm them, dude, Abdul Carter, generational guy. Travis Hunter, generational guy. Like, those are going to be all pro players in the NFL, like guaranteed. I would jump, maybe go to the 2nd overall pick, go up 2 picks, and I would make sure I get one of those 2 guys. That's how I would go about this offseason. Because I would hate to miss out on those two guys. I would hate it.
You're not crazy, but I think like when you look at the Patriots, I don't think they're going to be winning many games next year. If you can get Drake May, like a good wide receiver, like you get a T-Mac or somebody like that, you can get a Mason Graham. Like I get what you're saying, but you're not going to be teams. Look how much the 49ers had to give up to move up one spot.
This guy every year he says, get a wide receiver and wait for another year for every position.
But it's a team that
if you have a chance to get Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter, those guys will change your franchise potentially. Like they'll change.
But then
you're
giving that's a team that needs more than that.
And then next
you're
year,
have to give up.
You're
wagering. You're going to have to
get a wide receiver.
Basically what people are going to want to pay for a quarterback, for a wide receiver, a corner.
But you're not guaranteed, Klotz. You're not guaranteed next year to be in the top 5 to get a guy like Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter, but you can still get a first-round wide receiver at 7, 8, 9, 10 next year. Like, to me, it's like I would rather –
you won't be able to because you're giving up that first-round pick guaranteed.
If you could stay at 4 then and take them, you do it. But I'm saying the Patriots need to come out of this draft with one of those two guys for their franchise to continue to move forward, because if they have one of those two guys, that's huge for their building. That's huge for Mike Vrabel. And then next year, Klotzy, get Drake May a weapon. Hey, and don't forget about what's his name from Washington too. Don't forget about my guy.
Jalen Polk and Jerome Baker combined for 48 receiving yards this year.
Hey, wait till you see him this year. Wait till you see him in 2025.
Mario Douglas and Keyshawn Booty were better. Dude, the last name of Booty was better than both of them.
Hey, appreciate you all for today. Shout out to the Doc. Had a great show. We'll be back tomorrow. Remember, tickets, Tyler Conklin Foundation this Saturday. Link is in the description. There's other ways to donate. Go to Tyler Conklin, his social media platforms. You'll find it. You can donate. That thing, there's a Venmo in there. You can just send money. It goes to charity, helps awesome causes. But we'll be back tomorrow. Until then, go Lions.
Love you guys.
Peace.